Thank you.
Madam Chair, it's yours.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Town Council members and members of the public. We will now convene in public session at 6:50. Thank you. Do I have a motion from a member of the council to adjourn from executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jen Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays, the motion passes. Public meeting is reconvened at, I said, 6:51 now. Members of the public, welcome and a warm welcome to our presenters this evening. We expect Mr. Craig Levis, Superintendent of the Coventry Public Schools, to be joining us. We expect Ms. Kathy Patno, Chairperson of the Coventry School Committee, to join us. We expect Ms. Jill Ambroska, Assistant Emergency Management Director, to join us. And we can see that Mr. Crossman, Russell Crossman, Director of Planning and Zoning, is with us already. Mr. Wazika, how many members of the public are with us this evening?
At present time, 93.
Thank you. We'd like to report that the council met in executive session per Rhode Island General Law 42465A12 for discussion of job performance, character, physical, or mental health of a person or persons, specifically for the council to interview candidates for the following board: Economic Development Commission. We also met per Rhode Island General Law 42465A2 pertaining to litigation, specifically to discuss the following: Social Holdings versus the Town of Coventry, KC 2020-0769. No votes were taken. May I have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, a roll call vote?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The motion is approved. We'll now move on to item C2, approval of meeting minutes, January 25th, 2021. Members of the council, are there any corrections for the meeting minutes for January 25th, 2021?
President Dixon,
Yes.
I do have one requested edit.
Go ahead.
On page 4 of the minutes, or page 10 of 45 in the packet, it's the last paragraph before public comment. If the clerk could please change the words "was very pleased with" and change that to "highlighted the detail." I also emailed this to you earlier about the responses. That would be helpful.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc or Ms. Shockley, any corrections?
I had one.
Mr. LeBlanc?
I had one on page 16 out of 45. It's in the section resolutions for discussion and or action. It says, Councilmember LeBlanc wanted to make sure that we do not repeat the same issues. Solicitor Gorman explained that it says Maine, but it should be man, hired to complete the comprehensive plan. Good.
Thank you.
Yes.
I also noticed that, so thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. And also on page 9 of 45, change the word insure, I-N-S-U-R-E, to insure, E-N-S-U-R-E.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other corrections? Members of the council, may I have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call vote?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The minutes for January 25th, 2021 are approved as amended. Thank you. We're on to C3. This is a brief update on the filling of vacancies on boards and commissions. I'll make this very brief. As mentioned in a previous meeting, the council is interviewing every person who applies for a vacancy. It expects that people who are reapplying will also complete a form and be interviewed. We are committed to expanding membership so that more people in the community may be engaged in the process. We expect openings in May and June on the following: Friends of Human Services, Coventry Housing Authority, Library Board of Trustees, Patuxent River Authority, the Planning Board, and the Zoning Board of Review. We have immediate openings for alternates on the Board of Canvassers, the Sewer Subcommittee, and the Conservation Commission. So I highly recommend that people would go to our website, download an application form. We encourage people to consider a role in town government. I myself have been a volunteer my entire adult life and have had many rewarding experiences. I've met many people in the community, and I've enlarged my own knowledge of areas which are of critical importance to the community. Serving as a volunteer on one of these boards or commissions will be a very rewarding, value-added experience for anyone, and I do encourage people. We've got some very interesting, very critical boards which have vacancies now, and we'll have them May and June. So please do consider. Thank you.
President Dixon,
Yes,
may I make one comment, please?
of course.
So for the boards that have been just mentioned by you, I think we would be remiss if we did not mention that for Sewer Subcommittee in particular, we have not had any submissions to that particular board. I would like to point out a few things for anyone who might be considering this. Firstly, over the last several years, we have not had any person who has had a sewer assessment assigned to them on this board. So all of the people on the board, including myself, have never had to deal with the sewer coming down my street. So I would be absolutely willing to chat with any person that might even be willing to consider coming onto the board, because having your insight as someone who has been directly affected by the sewer system would be extremely helpful. And then secondly, we are confirming the date for the sewer workshop that we've talked about in the past for the end of March. And you have myself, and I'll let Councilmember LeBlanc speak for himself, but we seem to be in sync on where we're headed with that committee, and that we'd like to see some ordinance changes. And we need your help on that group in particular. So I would really encourage anyone who is even thinking about being on that group to please send Mr. LeBlanc or myself an email. We could greatly use your help. Thank you.
Thank you for that important message. And I'd also like to mention that in the District 1, in the western part of town, we do not have sewers, but yet sewers are important for the economic development of our entire community. So we encourage people from districts, even though they're not directly impacted by an issue, to submit an application. Also, people in the eastern end of town, we want you on the land trust. We want to get your input. There are opportunities in all parts of our community to conserve and preserve land. So don't think of issues or committees as just being for one district or another. These committees and boards are for everybody in the town to help make Coventry a much better place to live. So thank you. Any other comments that people would like to make?
I would like to make just
Certainly.
clarification. My street was selected for sewers, and I personally have invested almost 4.5 years in investigating the sewer program. Also have led an effort in passing legislation to protect homeowners in Coventry. But I understand the want to have somebody on the board who actually has a sewer assessment. So I do agree with Vice President Ludwig that hopefully we get some interest, maybe somebody on Arnold Road or Hazard Street, or somebody who does have a sewer assessment. It would be appreciated.
Yeah. Lots of opportunity on the sewer subcommittee, lots of opportunity for our people from the entire community to join that important committee. So thank you very much. We're ready to move on to item C4, update on the COVID-19 vaccination program. And I'm happy to introduce to the council and to members of the community, Ms. Jill Dembrowska. Jill?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the warm introduction and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm happy to report out on what we've been doing here. I am very, very lucky to have a wonderful, wonderful representation in the town of Coventry with our EMA agency. So last week we started our point of disbursement with COVID vaccines. We had it at 1675 Flat River Road. We vaccinated 238 of our over 75 population. And I feel that it went very well. In less than 9 minutes of the link being up online, it was filled. It was a great turnout. It was a great day for everyone who attended. I was very, very happy to be a part of it. And I think the people who were on the team also got to see just how great the need was and how grateful people were to be able to receive the vaccine within their own town. So thank you for allowing us to do that for our town members. This week, we did the same process with the code red notification and putting the link up on the town website. And it is still up for the 75 and older population. And we have 252 people signed up. And that's taken up till now, today, this point in time. It went up Thursday morning. And of that, probably 35 of them don't meet the criteria. So we will be deleting several names off of that list. And hopefully next week, when we post the link, we will be able to include 65 and older. So we will have a much more robust sign up like we did last week. Because as of right now, the Department of Health has allocated our distribution for only 75 and over. At this time, does anyone have any questions for me or the team?
Ms. Ludwig?
Thank you, Director Ambroska. Can you please just talk about what happens with the unused vaccinations? I think we had 240 spots and only 238 were used from last week.
So there's only 2 vaccines and those were actually waste vaccines. So 238 out of 240, the 2 that were unused were actually wasted at the site. And by waste, I don't mean thrown away. There was an issue with the actual vaccine itself. So maybe, actually I do recall that the 2, they were, there was a problem with the actual function of the needle itself. So they needed to be wasted on site so that the person receiving the vaccine got a full and safe vaccine.
Actually, President Dixon, I do have a few questions just as a heads up. Thank you, Jill. So can you also talk a little bit about the annex itself and where the clinic is holding the vaccinations? I did receive, I don't know if it was a complaint or a concern, we'll just say a request to know why we had people kind of lining up the way they do, and was there some sort of concern with the low temperatures that we're having our senior citizens standing outside? Can you just talk about the process about, you know, how are we getting people into the building vaccinated and watched and then out?
Sure, of course, I'd be happy to. So the Walker Road entrance and also the entrance by the school department are both used as entrances so that people spend the least amount of time outside in the cold. And people, as we've advertised, are only supposed to show up at their appointment time. Oftentimes people show up not at their appointment time, which does cause a little bit of disruption in the flow process. And we are reminding people again this week that they need to show up at their appointment time so that we can keep the flow moving as per our plan, which was sanctioned by the Rhode Island Department of Health. We would like people to be able to stay in their warm cars until their appointment times, and then that won't be disruptive to the flow. Once they pass through those corridors, the check-in area is there. They follow through the corridor to get vaccinated, and then they go into the library for their observation time, and then exit at the far exit by the basketball court on Walker Road.
Okay, thank you.
course.
My next question, I'm not sure if it's, if Jill would be able to provide this, or Mr. Wazika, if you could maybe comment. Could we get some sort of weekly or bi-weekly update to the council on how many doses we've received from the state and how many are being utilized? I know some of that is on Facebook as well, but it would be helpful to have some sort of report in a public setting. And it, you know, whoever you think is appropriate to provide that would be fine. I think you're on mute.
I will get it from Jill after Thursday's clinics, and I will provide it at the on the website, and that way you can get out to the public and not have to wait till a council meeting. And we'll just post how many came in, how many we gave out. So that's easy enough to do.
Okay, and then I'd like to confirm the process for people who do not have a computer. Can we have them call into the human service phone number directly so that they can work with someone?
And then
I'm
we are telling them that. We're telling them that in the code red. We're telling that in all of our messaging. If you haven't got a computer, you're not going to see it there, but you are getting it on the code red call. And we give the number for DHS to call, and that's what they're there for, to help and to book these people up if they do not have computer access. So we are putting that out there.
Okay, perfect. And then the last item I have is a comment. I was extremely disappointed to learn that the state had basically thrust this process onto the town. We went through 1 week of absolute craziness where people are calling us, and I fielded multiple phone calls, multiple emails. I saw multiple things on social media about trying to get residents the vaccine. I was extremely disappointed, and I'll say with the state, because I'm not even sure who to be upset with at this point. Is it the Department of Health? Is it the governor? I'm not exactly sure, but I would like to know how they came up with the process of randomly telling us at some point, okay, I'm going to give you doses. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to have to figure out how to divvy those doses up. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to have to sign on to my portal. And then, oh, by the way, I'm not going to give you any more. You have a very specific allotment, and it's not going to be anywhere near the number that you need for your community. And then 1 week later, they open up the mega sites. And now we can't even give the vaccine away. How many spots do we have open, Mr. Wazika?
Jill actually is managing that side of it. Jill, how many do we have? I think we finally filled up the 240. We got to 240 today. So
last week it took 9 minutes to get 240, and now it took a week or 5 days to get the 240 because of all the other options. So my question is, why didn't the state just wait 10 days and not force it down on the communities? And now we have to be the ones paying for this. We have to be the ones that had to drop everything and set something up. So I know this is not any fault of Coventry. I'm just expressing frustration that I've heard from our residents, the upset in their voice when I talk with them about being so scared that they're not going to be on the list, especially because they weren't on that first week. So admittedly, I'm not exactly sure who to be upset with, but in general, I am frustrated. Thank you very much for doing the best you could with what was thrown on the town. Jill, thank you. Thank you for your department. Thank you to Mr. Robillard and the group there. From my district, anyone who is from District 2, age 75 and older, who had a phone number listed on their voter registration, my intern and I called every person on that list. We also called everyone from District 4 who listed a phone number, age 75 and older, and we were able to make contact with a few people who, let's just say they're not, they were a little bit older, they were not on social media, and we were able to get them signed up. So I think the message is slowly getting out there. But thank you for what you've done this far, and I will share in the frustration of those who contacted me over the last 2 weeks.
Ms.
Thank you.
Ludwig, as upset as you are, think about us when we were dealing with it on a much larger scale and having this dumped on us and getting reamed over something we had absolutely no control over, that we had to scramble to come up with a solution at short notice. And to be dealing with that is just, it was beyond anything I ever thought we'd get stuck with. I think the state, my personal opinion, I think the state felt like they needed to start getting something out there more. And that's why they did it at the last minute with us, to try to get us, and also to take some of the pressure off of them. So yeah, I wasn't happy with the process. I think if you get a shot on Thursday, or any of the council members get a chance on Thursday, should go over and see what Jill and her crew are doing over there at the clinic. They are doing an unbelievable job. The work that goes into this, like I said, there's 31 people involved in this process to give those shots out. They're working their tails off, and I'm very thankful that we've got all these great people in our town that are working on this to do it. So thank you for your compliments to them as well, because they deserve that and then some.
Thank you. Any other members of the council with comments? I'll just mention that many of my neighbors went over to the Coventry site. They found it completely comfortable, very easy and very quick. And they called me and they said how great it was to be able to use the town services. And they said everyone who was on duty, everyone from policemen down to the people who were giving the vaccinations, were extremely courteous, friendly, and they felt extremely comfortable. So kudos to Mr. Wazika and Mr. Broska, who planned this with military precision. I was one of those people who didn't get in on the first week of the town site, and I called Walgreens and I had my vaccination last week. And I also told my neighbors that here's an online form, or here's the telephone number, and they were able to get vaccinations actually the day they called. So there are now multiple sites out. I think the situation is going to be like the time when we couldn't get a mask, no matter how hard we tried. And now no matter what store you go in, it's easy to get a mask. And I think we're finally getting to the point where it's getting a little bit easier to get these vaccinations. But there are multiple sites, CVS, Walgreens, some places, even Walmarts are giving shots, and of course the state site. So I think things are going to be quite easy going forward. But Ms. Ludwig, you are absolutely right. I shared the same frustration that all our members of our community did when I couldn't get on the town site the first week, but that's how it goes, and all's well that ends well. So thank you very much. Any other questions? All right.
Jill, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And we will remain working hard to make sure this is executed very well for you all.
Thank you. It's going very well. And Mr. Wazika can follow through and give us a meeting update. Every time we have a meeting, he can give us a brief update based on data that you provide to him. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
Item number C5, update on Johnson's Pond. Mr. Wazika, it would be good for you to give us an update. I just want to mention to the members of the public that we did have an executive meeting, and we did talk to our legal counsel about the legal case in which we are involved. And Mr. Wazika will provide as much information as he's able to this evening. We know that everyone is really concerned about the levels of the pond. They want to enjoy all the recreational facilities and opportunities that they've had for many, many years. So we understand that the council does consider this a critical issue and wants to keep you informed as quickly as it is all possible. Mrs. Shockley?
Yes, President Dixon, perhaps you want to let the members of the public know how public comment will work this evening, as I've noticed a couple of people have.
Public comment is at the end of our meeting.
Tonight, it'll be at the end.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Mr. Wazika?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I want the citizens of Coventry to understand we are working on this issue almost on a daily basis. We're reviewing documents, we're going over, we are doing everything possible to ensure that the document, the lease document and the lease requirements are met and fulfilled this year and for all the years that this lease is still in effect, which is another 3 years. So we are working diligently on this. We have not violated the lease as has been claimed. We have conducted our routine maintenance as we're required. The issue involves a much bigger issue, and that is what's claimed to be major construction or costly construction that needs to take place. And the lease clearly states that has to be a decision made by both parties involved, and a situation where we come up with a way to fund it, and it's not necessarily on the town side or on the owner's side, it's on both sides, but that's something that has to be negotiated. And at this point, we don't even know if what he's claiming even needs to be done. But again, I want you to understand there's very little we can say at times because it is in litigation. I will tell you that we are bringing on the appropriate professionals to assist us with anything that needs to in the research on this whole topic. So we are bringing others in as needed to do it. As of right now, the time frame that we're in, which is the December 31st to March 31st era on the water level on the pond. There's actually two components to what's mandated by the lease. There's a flow rate and there's also a level rate. And under the current months that we're in till the end of March, the level has to be between 42 inches below the spillway to 48 inches below the spillway, and at a stream flow of 40 cubic feet per second. I received the reading today on what the level is below the spillway, and it is actually at 33 inches. So it is substantially higher than what's required for in this time frame. In fact, it's almost at where it needs to be for the May 1st to May 31st, depending on how the flow is going. April 1st to April 30th. So we're pretty close to where that needs to be. Also, if I look back historically on 128, so just about a month ago, less than a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, the level was actually at 38 inches. So the level's come up 5 inches over the last couple of weeks. Our flow rate currently, and it's been that way for the last week or so, is about 150 cubic feet per second. I'm going to share my screen. I've got the readout on that from the USGS. And let me find that so you can see where that is. No, I must have closed that window down. I'm not gonna, but I've been tracking this since the beginning of last summer. We have been following this and following the flow rates. So we are right in line. They are right in line with where it's supposed to be. They've got a couple of checkpoints that come in May where the level has to go up. We will be maintaining and monitoring that. If at any point the level does not come up to where it's supposed to be based on the lease, we will be taking appropriate action to ensure that it is brought up to the appropriate level. And that's pretty much all I can say at this point. I hope I've covered everybody and at least alleviated some people's fears on where this is going. But we are in process on this. We've been in process pretty much since the start of the transfer of ownership. So we are working on it. The council's working on it. The solicitor's working on it. Everybody's working on it. This is one of the priorities for the town. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wazika. Members of the council, does anyone on the council have any questions? Ms. Ludwig.
Less of a question and more of a statement. Thank you, Mr. Wazika, for going over that. And it is very difficult for most of us to sit here and not provide more detailed information. And so I think what we did is we heard the public comment last week. President Dixon ensured that it was put into the next executive session. We wanted to say something, so we are listening, but we will not be able to, answer questions per se on specific items here, such as, were questioned, for example, last week. So thank you for providing that information. And President Dixon, thank you for getting it into executive session.
More than welcome. Any other comments by members of the council? Mrs. Shockley?
I really just want to follow up. I think it's important enough that the residents of Coventry understand that Jen basically just spoke what the council is thinking, that we are all working diligently. We're listening. I've gotten multiple emails. Some I haven't gotten to reply to, but I have replied where I can. And we are working to move forward in a positive way. And I think it's important to know the information that Mr. Wazika gave out, that we have done our maintenance to this dam. Also that the pond is rising. So right now, I think everyone is working towards a common good, which is that all residents get to utilize Johnson's Pond this summer and as we move forward for summers to come. So thank you very much, President Dixon, for just making this a topic tonight so the residents can know that the council is looking to move forward.
And we will continue to provide as many updates as we can every single meeting, but it's not only this issue, it's many other issues that are facing us that are very critical. And we do want, as Ms. Ludwig and Mrs. Shockley already said, we do want the public to know that we are listening to their concerns and we are acting as quickly as we possibly can on their concerns. Any other comments? Okay, the other thing I want to say is that people who live on Johnson's Pond, naturally, they're very concerned about water levels. And I enjoy Johnson's Pond myself, and I understand what their concerns are. I've walked on the bike path. I can see the water levels go down and now start to rise. So that's a very good sign. But I do want to say that this is not just a Johnson's Pond issue. It's an entire community issue. And we on the council are trying to focus on what is good for the entire community. It's good for the entire community that Johnson's Pond level are attended to, that we look at it very critically, but it's a resource for the entire community. So everyone in the community, we hope, is paying attention to this issue and is taking it into account that we are working on it. And it's a resource that is valuable for all of us, not just the people who live on the pond. Any other questions? Okay. Next, we move to item C6, update on the comprehensive plan and hiring a consultant. Mr. Russ Crossman is with us this evening. So important, he's on the agenda for 2 items. Mr. Crossman, I'd like you to just give us a brief history of the town's effort to update our comprehensive plan. What's the status of that work? And what's the update on hiring a consultant?
Okay, the status of the town has tried twice to update the comp plan under previous town planners, and it just hasn't been able to get it accomplished. Our plan, I believe, has not been updated since 2005. We're in desperate need of an update, and I appreciate the fact that the council sought to allow the town manager and myself to put this back out to bid. So as far as a timeline, what I've done is I've drafted an RFP. I've also just completed a RFP evaluation and selection criteria that I will use to rate each one. And I'm going to work with the town manager. We're going to be advertising these in 3 different places. And that's going to go out on March 1st, which would be a week from tonight. We're going to put it in the American Planning Association has a website, and it allows local communities and other planning agencies to put an RFP out. That will give it national exposure. And I thought that was a good place to put it. It doesn't cost the town anything, but it will be able to see people, will get some exposure there. I'm also going to put it on the state of Rhode Island has a project bidding website that municipalities also use, and people currently check in to look for projects. We're going to be putting it on that website. Obviously, we were posting it on our own website, but again, just putting it on there, I don't think a lot of people who would bid on this type of work would see it. And the third place we're going to put it, the city of Newport has an excellent website that a lot of other communities, I went on today, and Pawtucket, as an example, had probably 12 different bids on there because so many people go look at the city of Newport's website for a project. So a lot of municipalities use that. I've spoken with other communities. They also use that also. So I'd like to also put it on that website. In addition, I've drawn up a list of 6 firms that do this type of work. And I'd like to I'm going to be emailing them a copy of the RFP in addition. So I'll be sending it out to 6 firms, hopefully, to try to solicit some bids there. We'll be advertising in 3 websites, and that will be going on February 1st. I'm going to give them a 3-week time to prepare their application. So that will come back to us, the town, on March 22nd. And then what I would like to do is I would like to present these, our recommendation to the town council on their first meeting in January. I apologize, April, which I believe would be April 5th, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Nope.
No, when is your first meeting in April?
second Monday of the month.
12.
The 12th.
12.
Okay. Then I'd like to present it the 12th. That would just give us 3 weeks to review instead of 2.
Okay. Mr. Crossman, do you have any, I know this is an unfair question because you're beginning the process all over again, but when would the public be able to start reviewing a comprehensive plan and to start, giving some input onto that?
I'm not sure I have that question. What I'd like to see is one of the things I'm going to ask, I'm going to want to see a timeline from the people who bid. And would I say, I would like to project that that'll be sometime this summer. I'm also going to be relying on the Planning Commission also is going to be setting up a committee, Councilwoman Dixon. So I'd like to see that done maybe by late summer and to assist in this whole process. So what happens is, last time, I believe we could only get 4 representatives from the town to serve on the committee. And what we were aiming to do is we were trying to get 1 person from each district. And we weren't even able to do that. So I'm, excited to see what you've been able to do to get people, active, wanting to participate and be on committees. So I'm hoping we get a lot of interest in being on this committee, and the planning department, planning commission will be able to appoint some excellent members, because this is extremely important. This comp plan, it probably will not be updated. It won't see another major update, I believe, for 20 years, but even a minor update might not see for 10 years. Probably time they do a minor update will be at about 10 years. So we really have to make sure we get this right in what direction we want this town to proceed in.
Is it reasonable to expect that within a year we would see a finished product?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I think that timeline is tight. I really do. I've spoken with some other municipalities that just recently got theirs done, and they both told me it took 1.5 years. I am going to try. I'd love to get it done in a year, believe me. But realistically, they've been telling me it takes about 1.5 years to get this done. with just the way everything has to fall into place logistically.
Well, I want you to know that the members of the council have getting a comprehensive plan as a top priority for them. So we will do whatever we can to get you the members that you need from each district. You tell us what you need, and we will work very hard to make it happen on a very quick time schedule. So you have our complete support. We've all said this in many meetings that we have had. The comprehensive plan is the top priority.
I'm glad to hear that. I think it should be. Thank you.
You're welcome. Members of the council, do you have any other questions? Ms. Ludwig?
Thank you, President Dixon. So, Mr. Crossman, during our interviews for possible town manager candidates over the last month, we have been hearing about how other towns around the nation handle their comprehensive plans, just in the discussion. And so I'm wondering, is there in the RFP that you're putting out or will send out in the expectations for what we're looking for, are we prescribing how we want feedback collected or how we want the possible consultant group to do things? Or is it like a list of objectives to say, ultimately, we want you to interview the following groups? So can you just talk to us about what is going to be in that RFP?
Sure, I can. Let me just see. I had it called up here for a minute. Let me just take a look. So basically, the scope of work that I set forward, a lot of it, see, the state dictates what has to be in our comp plan, and the state really walks you through all this. So it's mostly, we take the guidelines from the state as far as how the whole, what it's going to look like, what elements have to be in the proposal. One difference that we did on this one, I put a blurb in there that talked about, let me just find that, how I'll just summarize basically how the town of Coventry has experienced. Right now, our comp plan mentions nothing about renewable energies. We have had a lot of discussions in the town over the past few years about wind turbines and solar. So I mentioned that we should definitely have another chapter added to this on renewable energy. So that would be one deviation. I don't believe that is a requirement of the state. So it's not really, we're not really going out on our own on this one. We're going to follow the state guidelines. See, we need the state to approve this plan. So we're going to include in this plan what we want, and in addition, what the state needs to see to approve this plan. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but I gave it a shot. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ludwig, I can't hear you.
I usually don't have that problem, Russ. Sorry. So, okay, I just wanted to know what would be in the RFP. So that that sounds appropriate to that it has to be in alignment there.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing, if that might just help you out. Where okay, here it yeah, basically what I also did was, when I was doing what I would be looking for, I just want to give you an idea what I'll be looking for in the evaluation. You know, company qualifications and experience, personnel qualifications and staff availability, performance of the record of the firm, a project understanding, and obviously there would be a cost evaluation in there. So those are the 5 things I was looking for when we'll be reviewing the proposal also. I thought that might help.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. LeBlanc, did you have a question?
I did. Mr. Crossman, the prior planning director held meetings. I think it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I participated with a bunch of my neighbors. Are any of those notes kept, and will they be included in this comp plan, or were you not able to find those since they were
No.
with the prior planning director? I just wanted to ask the question.
Sure, that's fine. I remember that meeting. That was at Club Jokes, if I'm not mistaken, where you were in attendance, Mr. LeBlanc, Councilman
Yes, you
LeBlanc.
got-
Yes, I was also at that meeting, and I do have all those notes from all of those individual, I believe we met with Council President Dixon at the fire station also in District 1. So I do have all those notes.
Great.
And I will be forwarding those on to the new consultant, but we are also going to be having those same meetings all over again.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure
Yep,
they didn't get lost. That's all. So thank
Nope.
you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Mrs. Shockley?
Thank you, Mr. Crossman. I'm wondering, as far as reading over the RFPs, who besides yourself is going to be handling that? Do you have a team put together? It's a 20-year plan that we're creating, so.
I was going to speak to the town manager on that, and I was going to do whatever was decided upon. But I don't have a team set up to review them.
Okay, I mean, I would say, I don't know how many opinions we can give on here, but in choosing this company, I think having a few different points of view could be very good. Any RFP I've done has had a committee doing the research and then making the choice to present to the board.
I think that's an excellent idea. And what I think I would like to do is, let me go back and look, and I'm just gonna, if you'll permit me, I'm just gonna go over a couple of the chapters that appear in this comp plan. So there's natural resources, open space, historical and cultural resources, housing, economic development, agriculture, energy, renewable energy, water supply, circulation, transportation, natural hazards, land use implementation. So based upon all those different things, I think maybe I would look out, I would reach out to the directors. I could reach out, Bob Robelot, there's a huge chapter in here on senior population and affordable housing. Perhaps I could consult with Julie Letty, bring her on board to give her a chance to review them also, as well as Director McGee. So yeah, I think that's an excellent idea and I'd like to consult with the town manager on that and see what we come up with.
We also recently put together some wonderful boards and commissions that seem to cover some of those topics. Of course, it would be up to the people on them, but they've already shown interest in our town and in moving it forward. So possibly some representation from there, either in the process of the RFP or in those meetings in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
And then for my own edification, and I apologize that we're kind of going back to something from a previous meeting when we made the decision to RFP for this. Did the company we used before, is it no longer a company?
They are a company. They are still a company, but the major gentleman who did 95% of the work, he passed away.
Right.
So, we did not pay them all the money that we had owed them. And this was before my time. So Ed, do you want to talk about that a little more? I mean, I'm not all up to speed on that contract and where we are with them.
Yep. No, they have not been paid the total amount. Thank God they hadn't been. What they had been paid was paid under the prior planner, the in-town manager. I'm not going to knock anybody, but they got tied into a contract that was at best was only going to get about half the job done, and the other half was going to be required by in-house personnel, which right from the start they never had enough personnel to do what needed to be done to rewrite half of that comp plan. It was never going to get done under the conditions that it was set at. I think it was a lose from the start because of what was going to be required. Ms. Wells did not have anywhere near the number of people that she would have needed to be able to do that and do all the research and do all the work on that. That's why it didn't get done. I mean, she was charged with, she didn't start it. She walked into it, and I went back and looked, and that was one of her primary duties when she got hired, was to get that done. It just wasn't going to happen under the conditions that it was. But yeah, they haven't been paid everything. I will not be paying them, and they haven't even attempted to get paid for the rest of the money.
Okay. Ms. Ludwig, we have a very long programs. Maybe could be a quick question to close this.
Yep, not a question, just a comment. So I'd like to second Member Shockley's request for Mr. Crossman's consideration of some of the board members. I have talked to several of the chairpersons on planning and other commissions or boards, and these are people who are volunteering their time, and I think they would appreciate to be involved in the process, even if it's to take a look at whatever reviews that you get back and bids that you get back on this process. So thank you for your consideration, Mr. Crossman.
We will look at that and make a determination on how best to get this the choosing of the appropriate firm.
Thank you.
Excellent. And just to reiterate, Mr. Crossman, this is a top priority for the council. We're all very impatient people, fortunately or unfortunately. A year sounds like a long time off. And you say that's a tight schedule, but we promise you that we will do all we can to help expedite the process. So you let us know and we will do what we can do. Thank you.
Thank
Ready
you.
to move on to what will be a very interesting segment of our meeting this evening. And this is item C7, an update and overview of the work of the planning department. Mr. Crossman has prepared a presentation for us so that not only the members of the council, but also the members of the public can understand better what the planning department does, the kind of work it does, how it does its work, et cetera. So Mr. Crossman, we're looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to start off. What I did was, based upon the agenda item, this presentation is going to be broken up into 3 different parts. I did a draft statement that I'd like to read from that identifies what we do in the department. After that, what I did was I went through our existing projects that we have in the hopper, so to speak. And I came up with 18 different projects, just to all different kinds of projects in town. Because to be honest, I'm not really sure if the council knows what's coming, so I thought it would be a good idea for them to see that. Now, one thing I wanted to say before I go in to talk about the projects, most of these projects are still ongoing. So I cannot answer questions that get into I have to talk in generalities when I talk about these projects because they're still appearing before zoning boards, planning boards, possibly town councils for zone changes. So I can't get into the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of these projects because I don't want to violate any open meetings laws type things, because a couple of these projects I'm going to talk about have public hearings appearing before the Planning Commission on Wednesday evening. So I want to talk in broad generalities. I just want to show you what these projects are. If you have any questions, I'll see if I can answer them. But just remember, they have to be broad type questions. And lastly, you had asked me to take a look at the commissions that fell under the planning department. We have 5 commissions that fall under our jurisdiction. We have zoning, planning. We also have the Land Trust, Historic Preservation, and we have the Conservation Commission. So basically what I did on that, I talked about all those projects in my first presentation, but I also did up sheets to identify the members that we have on each of those committees, when their terms expire. And so we could talk about which committees need members direly. One committee in particular is in dire need of members ASAP, so we can get that. And we'll talk about that when I get to that 3rd stage.
Mr. Crossman, I have one quick question for you. We have a very ambitious program, and some people are going to be at the end of the agenda, and I just want to give them a heads up as to maybe how long your presentation will be so they'll know when they should be really back on and active with us.
Depending upon questions from this board, I'm a fast talker. I could get this whole thing done in about 10 to 15 minutes.
I can't believe that, but
5 minutes? The town manager said 5.
is it appropriate to say 45 minutes or 30?
I don't think, I more than likely with questions, it'll probably take about 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes, okay. That just gives a heads up to the people who are on the agenda coming up. Okay, Mr. Crossman, we are all ears.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. So basically, I'm just going to start off by reading just a small report that I did that lets you folks and the town folks know what our department does. I want to start off, we're a department of 4. There's myself as director. I have an associate planner, John Studley, and then I have 2 special duties clerks. I have Kerry Kurowski, who handles zoning issues, and I have Gail Harding, who handles planning and CDBG issues. So that being said, the Department of Planning and Development administers Coventry's regulations for land development to ensure that the town grows in the way that residents intend. Our work is based on research and understanding of federal and state laws, local ordinances, policies, and plans as they relate to land development in Coventry. In addition to the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, the Planning Department utilizes the Comprehensive Community Plan, the document which outlines residents' vision for housing, land use, economic development, transportation, open space, and recreation. Our department also serves as key staff to the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board, the Land Trust, the Conservation, and the Historic District Commission to implement a wide variety of town efforts. Additionally, the Planning and Development Department locates and manages funding for initiatives and programs that improve residents' quality of life, such as the Housing Rehabilitation Program, which provides financial assistance for housing repairs for low to moderate income residents. Our department also reviews all building permit applications for conformance to zoning setbacks, including but not limited to sheds, pools, new homes, and additions. We usually average between 5 and 10 building permit reviews per week. Our office also prepares zoning certificates for attorneys, mortgage lenders, and property owners to confirm that the existing and proposed uses of a parcel conform to the provisions set forth in the zoning ordinance. Within the last 3 months, we have prepared approximately 24 zoning certificates. And this department is also responsible for zoning enforcement matters. Last year alone, we sent out approximately 90 violations to residents based on complaints we have received, usually from neighbors. I do think these numbers inflated due to COVID-19 and people working from home and becoming more aware of their neighbors' ongoings. The Department of Planning and Zoning is also, as I previously stated, responsible for providing oversight and assistance to the following boards and commissions: Zoning Board of Review, Planning Commission, Conservation Commission, Land Trust, and Historic Preservation Commission. So basically, I'm just going to give a brief synopsis of the board. The Zoning Board of Review is a 7-member board with 5 full members and 2 alternates. The zoning board meets monthly and hears applications for special use permits and dimensional variances. The board also sits as the Zoning Board of Appeals on matters that pertain to appeals of Planning Commission decisions and zoning enforcement actions. As an example, if you received a letter from the zoning enforcement officer and you did not agree with that letter and you wanted to file your point of action to file a grievance, so to speak, would go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Planning Commission, they're a 9-member board that meets monthly. They serve an advisory capacity to the town manager and town council with all respect to all matters concerning the physical growth and development of the town. All subdivisions and land development projects appear before the Planning Commission for extensive approval process. Most projects take 1 year to get through the review process and obtain all of their necessary state, federal, and municipal permits. The town of Coventry also has a Conservation Commission whose members get involved with environmental issues within our community. The town manager shall appoint the 5 members thereof to serve at the manager's pleasure. These members shall be residents of the town of Coventry, whose purpose it is to promote and develop the natural resources, protect the watershed resources, and preserve natural aesthetic areas within our municipality. The Conservation Commission shall also act in an advisory capacity to the town council, town manager, planning commission, and any other municipal agency whose purpose it is to promote the protection of our local resources, which includes lakes, rivers, forest, and woodland properties. The Coventry Land Trust was created to protect and preserve open space and is the town of Coventry's vehicle to promote preservation of Coventry's rural, rustic, and historic character that defines the town and its residents. Land Trust members are volunteers appointed by the town council who share the goal of preserving and protecting the town's precious lands for future generations. The Land Trust strives to preserve open space, protect wetlands, water bodies, ground and surface water resources, farmlands, historical or cultural places of interest, scenic views, unusual, exceptional, or exemplary natural habitats. Land Trust held properties hopefully will provide opportunities for research and education on natural resources. Land Trust properties, unless restricted, are open to the public for passive recreation. I just want to comment quickly. The last piece that the Land Trust bought was it was owned by Fred Schick. That was Heritage Estates. That was a project that had come before the Planning Commission for single-family homes, and the developer never finished through on getting all his approvals for the project. So he decided to sell that project to the Land Trust. And also, in addition to that, the town of Coventry applied for a grant to DEM and got $400,000 to assist in the purchase of that property. And by buying that, I believe it was somewhere between 60 and 90 acres. What that did, we were able to include that and some other 300 contiguous acres that we had already owned, with the Audubon Society owning a couple of that, and creating a large 400-acre area for open space that would never be developed. The purpose of the Town of Coventry Historic Preservation Commission is to safeguard the heritage of the town by preserving historic district or buildings in the town which reflect elements of its cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history, and stabilize and improve property values in our community, foster civic beauty, and strengthen the local economy, and educate the public about the past. This commission shall consist of qualified members who are residents of the town of Coventry to be appointed by the town council. They shall be appointed for 3-year terms, except that initial appointments of some of the members shall be less, so the appointments are staggered, so that subsequent appointments do not occur at the same time. And those members should be eligible for reappointment, and members of the commission shall have to demonstrate an interest in historic preservation, which all those members do. So basically, that was just a quick blurb I just threw at you. Does anybody have any questions before I get into the projects about any of the commissions I talked about?
Members of the council, Mrs. Shockley.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
You had stated that as far as going in front of, I think the Planning Commission, usually takes about a year for a project to go through. I guess I'm wondering, what size project is that? Is that a positive that it takes a year? Is it a negative? Is it bad for our economic development that it takes a year?
I'm going to give you an example, and I'll be showing that project later on. It's in your District 5, so that's why I'm going to bring it up. It is called Tallwoods Estates. Which, are you familiar with that project?
I'm familiar with the name.
Okay, it's a 64-unit condo development that has received master plan approval. And basically what it happens is they will come before the commission for a pre-application meeting. Pre-application, there's no vote. They're just presenting this project to the board and asking the planning commission, what do you think of my project? I want to proceed. Will you let me proceed? So if that is day one, so to speak, when they go before the planning commission for a pre-application meeting, their next meeting would be a master plan meeting. Well, they've got to do a bit of work. They've got to prepare more plans. They've got to prepare conceptual design plans. So the time frame between the first meeting and going to master plan is roughly 3 months. Master plans, sometimes I've had master plans take 3 months to get approved or denied. It's not something, because they're public hearings, There's a lot of public comment. It just doesn't happen in 1 month. I've had some, I'm going to say Boyd Brook, the preserve at Boyd Brook, 3 months in a row that project came before the Planning Commission. So you're going to go from pre-app to getting a master plan approval is going to fall within somewhere between 4 to 6 months. The next stage, you have to do all your engineering and get all your permits. Right now, the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, if you have to, a formal permit could take up to a year. A permit where you're looking for a preliminary determination on wetlands and your stormwater design, that could take 6 months just to get your permits out of DEM. So, and you need those permits to come back for preliminary. So that's why, so right there, let's say DEM takes 4 months to get you your approval back, as well as you're also getting approval from, in most parts of the town, DEM, DOT, Kent County Water, and sometimes you need to go before the sewer subcommittee, and then you'll have to appear before the town council to get your sewer capacity for the project. So there's a lot of different hoops they have to jump through before they can come back for preliminary. So that usually takes about 4 to 6 months. That takes you at the year process. They go back for preliminary, then they need to get final. Final is when they submit everything to this department. It shows me they've got all their I's dotted, their T's crossed. I've got all their, let's say, condo docs. I mean, I've got every piece of paper that I need to put in the file. They're done. They've got their bonds posted. Their phasing plans have been recorded. Then they get final. So yes, it could take about a year on a project like that. Some projects, if it's a minor subdivision is somewhere between 2 and 5 lots. It could go much quicker because they don't have public hearings and there's not two, they only go from pre-app straight to preliminary. So those could happen quicker, but the bigger projects are going to take a year to get through the process. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And it's by no fault of the town. We're not dragging our feet. We actually, by state law, we have so many days to perform our review, and the planning board has so many days to issue a decision. So that's all set by state law. I hope that answers your question.
No, that was great. Thanks.
Okay.
Excellent question, Mrs. Shockley. Any other comments at this time? Mr. LeBlanc?
Mr. Wazeeko or Mr. Crossman, would it be possible, maybe on a quarterly basis, just to get like a list of open projects that the planning department is working on? Just to kind of keep us apprised of what's going on. It sounds like you already have a list kind of that you're working on. It doesn't have to be detailed, just maybe by name and how many units or how many houses might be going to the project, that kind of thing. I didn't know if that would be possible.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, does that be monthly,
I
maybe
can provide
quarterly?
that with the town manager, and he
Okay.
can distribute it to you folks.
That would be great. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. LeBlanc, would quarterly be sufficient for you?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever the council thinks, but I think maybe at least quarterly.
Okay.
I do know projects do take a while to go from start to end, so quarterly would be great.
Town clerk, I would like you to make note that we would like quarterly updates just on projects that are active, so that we can put that on our schedule so that we don't forget it. It doesn't fall through some black hole that sometimes exists in government proceedings. Okay? Thank you very much. Mr. Crossman, you have much more to tell us, so continue.
I have a little bit more. Mr. Wazeeka, could you share the screen for me, please?
You have it, sir.
Thank you. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so basically, I'm going to flip through these. What I did was I've clipped a picture from the blueprints that were provided by the applicant, and it shows the different type of projects we got. What I also did that I thought might help, I listed the town council district that each of one of these is in, so the members will know this is in your district. So,
Nice.
and after each one, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll stop and, or you can ask questions at the end. So the first one I have here, this is in District 1. This is it's called Hammett Preserve. It's a large parcel of land. They're just subdividing it into 2 lots. As you can see right here, there's a lot of wetlands on the property. So it's not good for it's not suitable for a subdivision, but there is a couple of upland areas, upland being land outside of the wetlands, where they are able to get a couple homes in, and they've done their test holes to get their septics in. So this is just a 2-lot minor subdivision that'll probably be coming back for the second stage of approval at our next meeting in March, and it's on Hammett Road in District 1. The next one there, this came from master plan approval. This is in District 5. This is Councilwoman Shockley's district. This is a project that I'm excited about. I really like this project. This is called Woodland Manor 3. If you council people are familiar with Woodland Manor, it's behind the post office, behind Inman and Torgey. We have apartments back there. This is a project, it's going to be phased into 2 phases. They're going to build 92 new apartments. Every one of these apartments is going to be affordable. So it's going to do incredible things for our affordable numbers. Usually we're only getting 25%. Here we've got a developer who's willing to put in 92 affordable apartments. They did receive master plan approval in January at the Planning Commission. And another one, a good thing about this project here is through a consent order with the court, we're getting the town will be receiving approximately $600,000 in impact fees and about $550,000 in sewer assessments for this project, because they will be connecting into the sewer. So this is a good project. There's all apartments in the surrounding area anyway. We had nobody come out and speak against this project at a public hearing in January. So that's the Woodland Manor 3. This next one is in Councilman LeBlanc's District 3. This is a 2-lot minor subdivision on Fairview Avenue at the intersection of Fairview and Ray Street. It was an empty lot over there. Assessors plat 80 lot 15. It's in an R20 zone. It was just recently purchased, and the developer just subdivided it into 2 lots, and he's proposing 2 single-family homes. They'll be appearing before the Planning Commission in February. Next, we have here, this is the residences at Boyd Brook, which is also in District 1. This was very controversial. It came, for 3 consecutive months for master plan. There was a lot of passion by our residents on this one. And this is a comprehensive permit application. When I say comprehensive permit, what that means is that they are dedicating 25% of the units to low to moderate income units. They originally started out with 96. Through negotiations and going through months with the Planning Commission, they dropped it down to 64 2-bedroom unit residential development, with 25 being low to moderate income units. I also have this one here. This is the printer plat. This is in Councilwoman Ludwig's. It's on Coventown Road. This was a single lot that was subdivided into 2 lots with an existing house to remain, and a proposed lot will be developed. They'll be coming back before, they'll be getting their final approval from this department probably within the next month. This one here, this is in Council in District 4. This one's been hanging around for a while. This is the Woods at Red Brook Meadow Phase 3. The actual access to this property is through West Warwick, off of New London Turnpike down April Court. This is 36 multi-family planned unit development. There'll be condos, as you can see, they'll all be attached, and they'll probably be coming for they have master plan approval, which they've been extending every year. They'll probably be coming for preliminary, I expect, within the next 2 to 3 months. This one here, this one's been ongoing. This is the Oak City Shore. This is also in District 4. This was one off of Tioga Avenue that connects out to East Shore Drive. It is a 33-lot residential subdivision. They've received master and preliminary approval. They're in the process of proceeding to final. Next here, this one I brought on, this is called the Finnegan Family Compound. I'm sure some of you have met Mr. Finnegan. He's been around in town. He bought this land, and this was a subdivision that had been hanging around for a while. And Mr. Finnegan bought this because he wanted to build on this property. He wanted to build 4 homes for him and his 3 kids. So he bought this. It's all going to be private roads. And this is where his family will be living off Whaley Hollow Road in Council District 1. This next one is in Council District 3. This is the old Holiday Mill it's on 9 Howard Ave on the corner of Howard and Lincoln. There's a mill there. There's what they had some empty land next to here. This land is zoned I-1 industrial. And what they're going to be doing, they have proposed 2 excuse me, storage facilities. Storage facilities, there's a lot of need for storage facilities in town. I don't mean self-storage. What I mean is I call them contractor bays. If you're a local plumber, as an example, and you have a truck, a big van with all your equipment, you don't want to bring it home and park it in your driveway. You would buy one of these, say 1,000 square foot, they're heated units. You keep all your equipment in there. You could fit 2 or 3 vehicles in there. You go there in the morning, you get your equipment and your vehicle, and you go to the job site. There's quite a few of them scattered throughout Coventry, and there really is a need for those. This next one that is in Council District 2. This is a 4-lot minor on Station Street. It's at the intersection of Station and Ginger. There was a piece that went up on the market, so they're looking to do this. This has been hanging around for a while. So, I expect, by the end of the summer, this one will probably be wrapping up. Next, this one here, this is in Council District 3. This was heard last month. This is also a comprehensive permit. They're the existing apartments that are on the Fairview Avenue at the intersection of Fairview and Blackrock. If you're heading north on the left-hand side, there's currently new owners, and they were looking to expand it by putting 2 new buildings in with 10 new residential apartments, 3 of which were going to be affordable. Next, this one here, I'm not sure if the council knows about this. This is in Council District 4. If you were to continue on New London Turnpike, as an example, if you went all the way to the end of Arnold at New London, you took a left and you head down the hill. On your left-hand side, there's the old gravel bank that belonged to Cardi, where they've taken all. This project will be coming forward preliminary application. I expect within the next 2 to 3 months. It's a proposed independent living, assisted living, and a memory care facility consisting of 202 apartment units with 25% affordable. So basically, it's for people in our community who unfortunately need that memory care facility, and they start out and they will be able to move from the independent living to the assisted living, and unfortunately eventually into the memory care. So they'll, it'll all be within one building. And that has master plan approval, and they'll be coming back for preliminary pretty soon. This one, next one here is in Council District 5. This is the end of Clark Mill Street. It's a piece of property that was left over when they built Timber Trail in that whole neighborhood. It's about a 4-acre parcel, and the owner of the parcel is looking to put a 4-unit multifamily dwelling back there, or a comprehensive permit for a 6-unit. He's not really sure. They came for pre-app, and he hasn't been back since. And it's been about a year now, so I'm not sure when this one will be coming back. This next one here is Council District 5. It's Tallwood Estates. I spoke about it earlier. It's it's 62 residential condo units, all 2-bedroom, being provided access off of Regalwood. It is all private road. It'll be a private gated community, private roads, no trash pickup, no snow plow. And this is all waterfront on Johnson's Pond down here. And they're in DEM right now, waiting to get their approvals back. This next one here, I'm not sure if anybody knew about, but Westerly Community Credit Union, they're going to be coming to town. I like to have banks in town. They pay taxes, they keep their properties neat, They don't put kids in the school system, and they don't really put a burden on our police and fire, and hopefully they don't. So, you know, this is going to be going next to the Gentleman Farmer on Council District 5 on Nooseneck Hill Road there. They had always been, there's a vacant lot right next door to there. It had been approved for a bank many years ago, but never could find a bank that wanted to go in. So Westerly Community Credit Union jumped up. They're looking to expand and, you know, try to get some Kent County people in their bank. So they have already applied for a building permit. So this project is, I expect we'll see some breaking ground over there within the next couple of months. This one here, this is, you guys familiar with the old Merrill's Motors, which was on Sandy Bottom Road at the intersection of 117. This is in Council District 4. Merrill's Motors, which was recently sold to Scott Crow. Scott has OSA, Ocean State Aquatics. And by the way, if none of the council people have been in Ocean State Aquatics, they should go in there. He's New England's largest grower of coral. He actually grows coral. So people who want to put it in their fish tank don't have to go out into the ocean and harvest it. It's a great idea. He's got a really neat operation in there. So as part of that, when that purchase took place with OSA, there was two parking lots that didn't go with the sale. They were vacant lots. So Sunset Tint and Sign, that is currently renting a building across the street. They're looking to move. They rent that building. They want to purchase their own property, its own general business. So what, excuse me, what they'll be doing is they're going through the approval process right now with the Planning and Zoning Board to relocate their operations across the street and build a new facility that will house their operations. This next one here, this is the Coventown Road subdivision. This was the former piece of land that the solar farm was proposed on about 6 months ago over in Council District 2. The Planning Commission ultimately denied that solar farm, and the applicant chose not to appeal that decision. So what he's done, he's come back with the subdivision. It's going to make its first appearance before the Planning Commission on Wednesday evening. And lastly, we've got one more. This is Steve's Bounce House. I don't know if you guys know what Steve's Bounce House is. He, if you're having a party with your kids in the backyard and you rent those blow up slides and the big things where all the kids have a great time and bounce, well, he rents those out. And in addition, he rents out tents and chairs if you're having a wedding or a big party in your backyard. And he currently leases, and he's looking to purchase, he's purchasing this land in Center New England. This is off the Hopkins Hill roadside in District 5. So you're coming in, this is the where DeAmber's building is, and DAI is right over here. So he's looking to purchase this lot. He's going to put his office here, and he's got these two 5,000 square foot storage buildings to store all his equipment in there. And he's also a resident of Coventry in District 5. So he's looking to, you know, he wanted to keep his business in Coventry. And basically, that's it in a nutshell. It's 18 projects that we've got ongoing in town, some residential, some commercial. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about any of the projects I just talked about.
Okay, members of the council, what questions do you have? Mrs. Shockley?
So just because there's a couple of these projects you mentioned went before the board last month, and you said there was no arguments against them, no one came forward from the public. How do you put this out to the public, especially the public surrounding the area where there's going to be a new development of some sort or a new business?
Everybody who owns a property within 500 feet was sent a certified letter with a return receipt requested by the applicant. So they were all notified. And because of the location of the property, let me go back all the way up to the front. Let me just go back to that piece, if I may. Because of where this is, all these properties, like right here, this property right here to the north, this is CN. It used to be CNA. They sold landscaping products. Now there's a new name. There's a new owner. This is Mulch and More right here. And then right over here is where Inman Torgy. So 500 feet extended across the street into Wood Estates. So those people were notified, as well as a bunch of these business owners here on Tioga Ave, on Nooseneck Hill Road. So in addition, they also are required to put an ad in the Kent County Daily Times. So an ad is put in the paper, and that has to run 2 weeks prior to the date of the meeting. So if there is a public hearing like this was, abutters are notified depending upon what district they are. That dictates what the radius is for the abutters, and an ad has to appear in the paper.
The radius is dictated by which district they live in?
It is, because as an example, let's take Councilwoman Dixon's district out in 1. Those parcels are so large. If we used a 500-foot, we might not even locate one parcel, maybe one parcel around the parcel. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's 100-acre parcels out there. So out there, we expanded it out. That's the only reason why. It's not like we want to advertise it to more people. It's just that not as many people would get advertised if it was the same
Okay.
500.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Mr. LeBlanc,
No questions. I just wanted to comment that I thought this was a great presentation. Mr. Crossman's clearly very knowledgeable in every single project here. So I really appreciated the information that he shared. Just wanted to make a comment.
Thank you.
very much. Any other comments? I don't see Ms. Ludwig on the screen anymore.
She's
you
raising
see
her
me?
hand, ma'am.
Oh, there you are. Well, you weren't there a minute ago. So you have,
Okay.
you have a question, Ms. Ludwig?
Yeah, so I was hoping to continue on with Member Shockley's question a bit. How about communication, not just that a potential upcoming development or major item may be coming, but kind of along the way. So we talked earlier about it, something may take a year to really come to fruition once if at the earliest, when they get through everything. And I know from sitting in on, several of these meetings that these can go for several hours to get through a planning meeting, a zoning meeting. And so what would you suggest for residents who want to, stay up to date on what's going on with some of these, but may not have, the capacity to understand everything or attend a 4-hour meeting? And I liked Member LeBlanc's suggestion about giving some sort of, update. Is there anything else that we can do to make this easier on residents, like especially when a decision has been made? I know we can go back and find meeting minutes like on the Secretary's website. And I don't know if we have an answer right now, and maybe we can take this offline, but I'm just thinking for groups who, try and follow an issue. And I'm thinking back to in my district, in the summer and the fall, we had that proposed solar plant or array that now, as you just showed a few minutes ago, got denied and they're going to go in with the houses. But when I was, and this is pre being elected, when I was still knocking on doors, and I mentioned, that was actually denied, people were very surprised. They said, I tried to follow along. It went month after month. The meetings were several hours long. And then finally they made a decision, and they didn't even realize, because at that point they just didn't know how many more meetings they could attend. So I don't know if there's an answer right now, but maybe that's something we can think about for when decisions are made, either approval or rejection or whatever that is. I'm wondering if there might be some alternative way to let the public know without them having to kind of go through all the hoops to go find the information.
Okay, yeah, I don't have an answer for that right now, but it's something we can certainly think of. And one thing too, I just want to let you know, when we do make a decision, either to approve or deny, it still has to come back again the following month for a ratification by the commission. So if it, like this project as an example here, Woodland Manor 3, the commission approved that in January, but that master plan is not, they have to ratify the decision to approve on Wednesday evening. and then it will get recorded in the land evidence records. I'd like to think about that one. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I'd like to follow up offline on that because I don't think there's an easy answer, but it does feel like we have a lot going on here. And then hopefully, and what we're trying to do is get the Economic Development Committee together. And we're going to probably need to come back and circle back with all the great future suggestions we're going to have to get economic development continued in Coventry as well. So it just makes sense that we would, talk about how do we inform people of all the good work happening. All right, thank you.
And I'm also, I'm sorry, I just want to follow up. You brought up a good thing. I also receive so many phone calls from people who want to move into town. Matter of fact, I had a Zoom meeting today with a gentleman, and he's looking for between a 10 and 20 acre parcel. He's got a commercial venture he wants to do, and he wants to be in Coventry near the highway. So him and I talked for 45 minutes today, coming up with some ideas where I thought he could go. So I also have a Zoom meeting on Thursday with a new somebody that wants to come into town. They want to talk about how the project works. So the department also handles that aspect of before people get into the approval process. We try to let them know how the whole approval process is going to work and what they'll need and how the stage will work. If it's zoned correctly, will they need to go before the council and that type of thing. So we also do that, quite a bit of that. So
Thank you.
because a lot of people want to come to Coventry these days. So.
Any other questions? Then I'll just make a comment. First of all, Mr. Crossman, I'm really truly overwhelmed by the variety of commercial and residential projects that are going on in our town. You did a splendid job in meeting, I guess you could say, some of the requirements I set before you to cover so many topics all in one evening. But this is the first time that I can remember in many, many council meetings where we've had such a thorough discussion of the projects that are going on and what is happening in our community. But my question to you is this: what are the challenges that you have in tracking all these projects? I mean, each one is very unique. So tell us about the challenges that you're having.
Well, I'll be honest. When it was just me after Brian had left last March, it was very difficult. I do have an associate planner on staff now who has helped out immensely, because now I didn't have to try to do everything. I still like to be hands-on. I still go to the planning meetings. I still go to the zoning meetings. To be honest, I'm happy with the way the department is functioning right now, where we seem to be falling into place. We're operating on all cylinders. We're getting things done. And I really think we're in a good place right now. We were looking for another associate planner in the last budget. It was unfortunate we did not get that. And again, the economic development director, I believe that person would have sat in our office too. And they would have, and what I envisioned was they would start having the conversations that I was having with these folks who want to bring their businesses into town. But I'm happy with the way the department is running. And I think we're doing a good job.
Excellent. Well, splendid to hear you say that. I'm sure every department needs some type of improvement, but I'm glad that you've got the associate planner in there now, and that has improved the work conditions for all of you. And I'm sure customer service is greatly improved also.
Yes, I hope so. Is that it on this? And then you wanted to talk, we'll give a brief on the boards and commissions?
I'm sorry, you gave us a brief already, did you?
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's fine. I didn't know if you wanted to get into the particulars about the boards, but I would like to talk to you about the Conservation Commission, if I may.
Please do.
Okay, so let me just stop share for a moment. I want to bring this over. let me just go back to the Conservation Commission. And let me hit, I want to share. Where is that screen? Right there, share. Okay, Conservation Commission. Right now, I've only got 2 members. I've got Jerry Knockowitz and Diane Cowell, both excellent members. They're both involved with the Lake Tioga Association. I believe Jerry's the president. I think Diane might even be the secretary or vice. They're very passionate what they do. They're both retired teachers from the high school. They have excellent natural resource background. Jerry is in fact the gentleman on that Johnson's on Lake Tioga who controls the dam. They were appointed in 2007. My research says it's a 3-year term. They haven't been reappointed since 2007. So maybe we should look into see if they need to get reappointed. But unfortunately, they can't meet right now because I had 2 members who recently moved out of town, Sam Swarzer and Steve Valerio. I need these filled and I have an empty spot on there. So any help I could get getting these folks, getting these 3 seats filled would be greatly appreciative so we could have the Conservation Commission up and active again.
Thank you for giving this information. When you look at these dates, we realize that we need to do something. And Madam Clerk, please note that we need to get applications out to people who need to be reappointed, who will then be, of course, interviewed by the members of the town council also, as is our policy.
And lastly, I'd just like to close up. I did this. I'm going to be sending this to all of you through the town manager. What it is, it's Town of Coventry easing zoning guidelines. So what I did was I took all the districts, I labeled what they are. I gave you all the setbacks. So if you have any quick questions, you don't have to go to the zoning book. If a resident calls you, he has any questions. Oh, I live in an RR3. What does that mean? It means minimum lot 3 acres, the frontage, the setbacks. I also, listed about the clusters and everything else in there. And then I also just published quick answers. These are quick questions that the department gets phone calls on more than any other. And I just answered them and I put them in this thing. I'm going to send it out to you just to keep for your reference. That's all it is. So
is that also published on our town website?
It is not, but it can most certainly be put on the website. It's got everything from chickens to ducks to solar farms to sheds and pools. So basically, those are the crux to the questions we get these days.
Okay, excellent. It looks like a wonderful resource. It's just marvelous to see all the work that's being done. And it's sort of secret work because we're not even aware of all the things you're doing. So tonight has opened, I think, everyone's eyes, including all the members of the public who are on this meeting tonight. So any final questions by any members of the council?
I really appreciate the presentation, Mr. Crossman.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. You only took 45 minutes, Russ. So, I mean, considering how much information you packed into 45 minutes, it could have even been longer and we would have still sat mesmerized by all the information you presented. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Ross.
Good night, everyone. We're ready to move on. We're ready to move on to agenda item D1, authorizing the acting town manager to go to bid for an RFP to demolish the Brian Reed building. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution on page 19 of our packet?
Be it resolved that the town council hereby approves and authorize the interim acting town manager and staff to go out to bid utilizing a request for proposal for the demolition and removal of the Byron Reed building located at 700 Washington Street, Coventry, Rhode Island.
Mr. Wazika, would you like to speak on this resolution?
I would. I've just got a little video showing right now. I found this from the Kent County Past and Present. I spoke to the gentleman who shot it, Emil Lavoie, and he gave me permission to use it tonight. I just wanted, in case you haven't seen what this building looks like, and the condition it's in, I wanted you to be able to see just what it's looking like and why it needs to come down. So I'm just gonna let this play a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds longer, and then I'm gonna end this thing.
Yeah, I
Just so you
saw
have an
this,
idea.
yeah, I saw this today. It's impressive footage.
Yeah, the building's a wreck. Okay, so just so you got an idea of what it's looking like. We actually have a court order on this building to be able to take it down. What's happened is there's a whole game going on with the ownership of the property. Nick's done a lot of research on this. We spent a huge amount of time to try to find out who actually owns this thing. We think we have it, but we're getting no luck on getting this thing resolved. They currently owe about $150,000 in back taxes and sewer assessment to us. We need to get a number and know what exactly this is going to cost us to bring it down. It has to come down. If it's not taken down, it may come down on its own, and the liability issues for the town would be huge. We have not taken possession of the building in court. It is still, but we have the paper on it, so to speak, from the tax sale. No one wanted to buy this building in tax sale. I wonder why. I got a ballpark number today, but we need to get exact and we need to know what's going on. We're looking at probably about 75 grand to take this building down, but we need to know exactly where we're going with it. So I'm just requesting, I wanted to put it up in front of the council first. I didn't really think I needed to, but I wanted you to understand where we're going, what we're doing, and why the need exists to do this. You would have to approve if we do decide to take it down, but I'm not going to go through the aggravation if you think there's another solution to handling this other than demolition on it.
Okay,
I don't feel there is. On top of, as I said, we do have a court order to take it down because of the condition on it. Nick, do you want to add anything to this, or?
The building is, we have a report from a structural engineer that says that the building is ready to collapse. And we've had that for a long time. We got the court order quite some time ago. The way the tax sale laws in Rhode Island work, people for a very small investment can take control of a property like this, and then they are able to basically abandon the property through the use of these general partnerships and LLCs that are kind of no-name companies. We are trying to determine the identity of the actual people who owned these companies and get them to chip in. But I would strongly urge the town council to authorize the town manager to go out to bid. If you've been down in that area and seen this building, it's truly frightening. And it needs to come down. It's on one of the most heavily traveled streets in the town. And in summary, Russell gets to help talk about all the buildings we're putting up tonight, and I'm talking about the ones you got to bring down. So sorry to tell you that, but that's the truth. This one really needs to come down.
thank you, Mr. Gorham. Members of the council, may I have a motion? Ms. Ludwig, do you have your hand up?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Ludwig.
So can you, Mr. Rizka, can you talk a little bit more about the court order, or Nick, whoever's more appropriate, about needing the building to come down? Because I did speak with a few residents today that were under the assumption that there's a possibility that this building could be salvaged. I don't know how accurate that is or not. And then secondly, that there was some interest between several of our groups here in town approximately 10 years ago, between the Housing Authority, the Historic Commission, and or the Land Trust, they just hadn't talked to each other at the time and didn't know they were competing against each other, I guess.
I spoke to the housing authority. They are no longer interested in this building. The building, yes, there are some people in town who definitely don't want to see it go down. Unfortunately, structurally, this building is not sustainable. It is not repairable at any kind of reasonable cost. It has to be taken down. There's no other option at this point. It's going far too long. in
You
this
you
state.
mentioned a court order. Is that correct to say that this building must come down?
Yeah, the,
Okay,
in order to obtain the court order, you have to have a structural engineer qualified to give an opinion on the structural integrity of the building. And we obtained such an opinion. I can't remember the gentleman's name, Ed, but that was the basis for Judge Leach probably a year and a half ago to authorize, actually to order that the building come down. It's now the town's responsibility to take it down. I will say, although the video is very striking, that's not the biggest and most dangerous problem with the building. According to the engineer, it's the foundation below that is just crumbling and is eventually going to cause the whole building to come down.
thank you. I have one or two more questions. So is it possible to gain access to the building, or is it so unsafe that no one should even go inside? Because, for example, I did have a request to see whether or not, for example, someone from the Historic Commission could go in and either take pictures, or if, you know, if anything like that is possible, or if it's not even safe enough for that.
I would not want to allow anybody into there on any, the risk is there's holes in the floors. There's, I don't know how those floor joists are. I would not want somebody inside that building. I've spoken to that individual myself in the past, and I've advised her, if it's the same one we're talking about, that it is just not a safe building to go into.
I'm not sure who you're talking about. And then lastly, so if we take the building down at some point, so we say, yes, go out to bid, let's get some proposals, and then we actually take the building down, is the land still even ours at that point, or is it just our liability and we still don't even own it, since we don't, you said something about not even knowing exactly who owns it?
The town, in essence, has holds a tax lien on the property. It has a tax title on the property. No one bid in to buy it at any of the last several tax sales. In fact, the people who bought it at previous tax sales just abandoned it, which is a telltale sign that we're probably on the right track here. The building just cannot be salvaged. So the town will probably end up owning it. We could take the property if we wanted to. That is going to be an option. We could take the property if we wanted to and still try to find those responsible for who had the duty to take it down in the first place but didn't, to recoup some money. We actually do have a pretty good set of leads for who we think is actually responsible for owning the building and maintaining it. But I don't want to paint a really optimistic picture of the town's chances of being made whole if we spend the money it's going to take this down. It's not something I would rely on as a town council member for revenue. We're going to have to spend this money to take, the safe assumption is we are going to have to spend this money to take it down, depending on the bids, and we're probably not going to get the money back.
Well, not just the money back, but do we then own the property? Are we taking over the property?
We can take over the property at that point, yes. And we would have, just for starters, all of the tax liens, the lien on the property for having had to take it down, and anybody who would want to redeem the property or whatever would have to pay all of that. And I just don't think it's very likely that they would.
Okay, thank you.
So we own it. We could choose, to answer your question completely, the town would probably have first choice on who might be the best person to redevelop the property, for example. We would control that process by doing what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Gorham. Let me see, Mr. Shockley, your question.
Yes, so my first question would be, this building has been in a state of disrepair for a very long time. How did it get this far? Like 10 years ago, I'm assuming it was unusable as well. But it just, how did it get to this terrible place? Are there other historic buildings in town that we should be worried about right now that we don't have to suddenly take over in the same way? Is there something about the land this is built on that is making it, this foundation not settle correctly? Like different things about the property.
I think
Are they an
property's
issue? That was a
just-
lot of questions.
The property's just generally decayed. I don't think it's really site specific. I don't think it's anything about the location. There were some complaints by people in town who came in kind of upset that the town had not done anything to deal with this building, and that, their contention was that it was going to fall down if we didn't do something. And we looked into it, and as I said, we retained an engineer to give an opinion. His opinion was, yeah, it's going to fall down. There's no question about it, and soon. So I think in some of the other historic properties on Main Street, as we call it, in that part of town, I think the town relies on the Historic District Commission to some degree, and just some of the other agencies of the town to spot properties that might be saved. There are a couple, that are in tough shape on Main Street that probably need some attention. It's a matter of resources, I think. That's up to you, which properties get saved and which ones take priority.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
My question is, actually I have a couple. Is the contingency fund, would that be funding this? Because I'm assuming it's not in our budget if we were to go to bid, Mr. Wazika, for 75,000?
It's not in our budget, that's for sure. We also have those additional funds that have come in this year in reference to the WED agreement, as well as another agreement. So we have got additional revenue that came in.
That would offset.
So with I believe with a resolution, you would be able to redirect those funds towards this if need be.
Okay,
So
great. I
we have the
appreciate the
funds to
insight.
do it if we have to do it. We will
Okay.
find, the funds are in there.
I do believe in the building was a beautiful building, but I drive by it on a daily basis, and I'm concerned as I'm driving by it because I think it's going to fall down, to be honest. And I know the video showed the building, but next to the building, there's like this concrete structure as well. Is that included in the demolition?
Yes,
I just wanted to
believe it
clarify
is.
that too.
Yeah.
that's all
Okay.
gonna come down.
All right, and the I'll make, I don't have my
That's
binders
where the
with me.
mortuary was.
Okay, yeah, but it's dilapidated as well. So I just, and I don't have my binders in front of me right now, but when I was doing my research on the sewers, I'm pretty sure there's a hefty sewer assessment. I think it's either $40,000 or $50,000.
58,000 that they owe right now between their annual assessment payment as well as penalties on it. So
Right.
that's, yeah.
So
that's up
my
in-
only concern would be if we demolish that and we don't take over the land, I mean, the sewer
Well, we
fund's gonna
would
take
take
a hit
over
as
the
well.
land. We take it down, we will be taking over the land.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that too.
We
'cause
have to, we have to make up some of the loss that it's gonna take on this.
Okay.
So we would be.
Perfect. Thank you.
At that point,
Answered.
it's sellable, we could get rid of it. And as Nick said, we can direct who we would want in there for a developer and what they want to do with it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, may I have a motion on the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'd just like to make one quick comment before we vote. I did receive an email from a person in the community who has been extremely active for probably decades in historic preservation in various societies. And he understands that the building is in deplorable condition, but he questions why Coventry is allowing its historic buildings to get into this state. And I just want to mention that we have 4 historic commissions and societies in this town. We've got the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission managed by the town. We've got the Coventry Historical Society, which has artifacts in the Reed Schoolhouse and in the Old Summit Library. We have the Rhode Island Historic Civic Society, which manages the Payne House. We have the Nathaniel Green Homestead. And I'm putting out a call to all of these groups to put aside any personal feelings of what has happened in the past and to try to partner together to gain synergy for preserving Coventry's historic legacy. We don't want any more buildings to have to be demolished that have historic history associated with our town, because we want to be able to preserve these. So with partnerships, these 4 groups could bundle together all of these places that are so important to us, and they could actually provide them as almost a historic destination, as a learning resource for school children and as a source of pride for our residents. So working alone, each is looking for volunteers, each is looking for funds. And so we are losing our town's heritage through this interaction. So I put out a call to these groups that are in our town to try to partner together, have discussions, and look at what needs to be preserved and take care of these things before we get to the point where we have to start having resolutions to demolish buildings that are an important part of our heritage. I now like to call for a vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The resolution passes. Thank you very much. It was an interesting discussion, very useful.
Thank you.
It brings up the whole idea of how we're going to preserve our legacy in Coventry. Madam Clerk, please read resolution on page 20.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes,
these 3 are item 2, item 3, and item 4 are all the same thing for our finance director. This is a
Yes.
consent agenda. If we could just combine these into a single for expediency, and I think we could get them all done. It's simply naming her onto the pension committee that is necessary for each one of these pension funds that we manage. So it's just simply placing her on. She's replacing John Arnett with John's departure.
It's
Okay.
proper to do all 3 at once as long as the body wants to do it.
Okay, shake your head if we can do all 3 at once. Okay, good. All
Thank
right. May I have a motion to appoint Miss Lisa Mills to replace John Arnett on 3 commissions. That would be, let me see what they are. The SRP Pension Board. And what are the other 2, Mr. Wazika?
The Coventry Police Pension Board
Yes,
and the Coventry Municipal Pension Board.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
The motion, may I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. LeBlanc,
Just really quick, I do see the municipal pension board listed on our website under the directory, but I don't see the other 2, Mr. Wazika. I don't see the police pension board of trustees or the SRP. I just didn't know if we could add it to the website unless I missed it.
Nope, I will check. If they're not on there, I will add that onto the
Just
website.
so we know exactly who's on it. That's all.
Yep, nope,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
okay. Thank you for that clarification. We ready to vote? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The resolution passes to appoint Ms. Mills to 3 boards. Ms. Mills, you've quickly added to your responsibilities in town. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam President.
We now turn to page 24 through 31. This is the resolution to extend the executive order. Mr. Wazika, would you like to speak to this, please?
This is just simple housekeeping. The previous one expired, Anyway, it's time to renew this. I'm asking that we renew it until May 4th, May 1st.
May 1st.
We will have to vote on a new one prior to May 1st, but I'm looking to extend it by basically, I didn't mean to say basically, to extend it by about close to 70 days.
May I have a motion to extend the emergency declaration, as you can see it listed on pages, starting on page 24, to extend the emergency declaration to May 1st, 2021. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. LeBlanc?
Is there maybe 2 or 3 significant reasons as to why we do the census, Mr. Zika, that you could just let us know?
I couldn't, you broke up a bit. I couldn't hear you though.
Oh, sorry. Is there maybe 1 or 2 or 3 specific significant reasons as to why we need to extend this?
Yeah, it allows us to, one of the things that's coming up on the agenda as well, to extend the calendar, the budget calendar, and move it out a month. This emergency declaration allows for those types of things. So we are still in it, the state's still in it, the nation's still in it. So we really need to maintain that to be able to follow and move forward with all of whatever comes next in this. So that's
Understood.
why.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And I believe it also allows us to continue having meetings via Zoom, correct, Mr. Wazir?
But these are mandated by state.
Yeah.
So even if we didn't, we'd still have to do these by state.
Oh,
We still have
okay.
to do Zoom, yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
I have one more question, President Dixon.
Sorry, Ms. Ludwig.
So while I'm in favor of this item, just along these lines, if we come up, shortly here where we are seeing, this herd immunity that now the news has changed their tune on as soon as possibly April, and we see that the COVID vaccine is being distributed privately and publicly, when or have we or will we start making plans for reopening the town? So for example, while obviously not appropriate until post, March, because our emergency order is until then, I wouldn't want the state to come in and say something like, okay, April 1st, no more emergencies, and what that would mean for us. So my comment is more along the lines of, can we start figuring out what does it mean to reopen town hall? What does it mean to no longer need the state of emergency, so that we're not blindsided all of a sudden by the state?
One, I don't think we would be blindsided. I think they would give us fair warning on what's going on. The changing of the guard, so to speak, has got a different attitude towards municipalities. The lieutenant governor is getting us all involved in everything. We've got multiple meetings with them. He's doing a really great job of keeping us in the loop on what's going on. But prior to the current, we don't always get that, and I'd be concerned that if that wasn't changing. Even as far as she's turning over, I just got a new one today. She's turning over authority of the budget over to the lieutenant governor, even though she hasn't been replaced yet. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm tracking pretty much on a daily basis where we're going, how things are going. I've had meetings in reference to contemplating reopening town hall. At this point, the people in town hall feel more at ease, knowing that there's less contact. Everything's getting done the way we need to do it. It's not having a hindrance on operations. So it's not really, I don't feel as though it's anything we're gonna get caught blindsided on. That we'll be ready. And as soon as we can open, I plan on reopening as soon as we get down to a number that everybody feels confident in.
I would like to point out that there are probably several people on this board that will be in the last round of vaccinations. So I would like to keep that in consideration when we talk about the reopening of town hall, or even no longer doing Zoom meetings. Thank you.
We actually, if you want to do live meetings, we can do a live meeting. If you want to come in here and do this, and we can let the public in, we still have to do a Zoom meeting on it though, to keep them in. We're mandated to do Zoom even if you're doing live. So if that's an option, if the council so chooses to go back to live meetings, it's a possibility. We could do it. I wouldn't recommend it at this point. I'd like to continue going and keeping the building locked down for a little bit longer until the numbers do get better, just for safety's sake. But again, that's up to you. You make the decision.
I would say personally, if we're going to still be in the state of emergency, I would be hesitant to be suggesting that we come into the building and have
Thank you.
lots of people come in for the meeting.
Yep,
But we
thank
can
you.
certainly put that on a future agenda. Thank you.
It would be also really inconsistent if we were to have live meetings and still ask people to stay in the foyer to conduct their business too. We need to be consistent for all activities in which we are engaged.
I only brought that up because Ms. Ludwig had brought up about
Excellent.
asking about the open meetings. That's all. That's the only reason I brought it up. I wanted you, it's in your decision on whether or not to come back in for your meetings. And I appreciate the fact that you don't want to.
Okay. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The resolution passes. Thank you
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much. Okay, we're at item number D6. This is a discussion on the request for COVID funds by the superintendent. Mr. Craig Levis is with us this evening. Also present with us is Chairperson Kathy Patno, School Committee Chair, Mr. Levis. And this is in reference to pages 32 to 40 in our packet.
Thank
So,
you. I'm sorry.
You've been patient in waiting a long time this evening,
Oh.
but it's been interesting information. Mrs. Patno, I bet even though you've been in the school committee almost 20 years, I bet you found a lot of new information just by listening to us. Yes, thumbs up. Okay, Mr. Levis, it's your presentation now.
Sure. So I plan on keeping this very simple tonight. I know in one of my correspondence, someone had referred to that there was nothing new in it. And we've been given the same consistent message, my letter that you've all seen. I think the public has access to it. The letter to Dr. Dixon on February 11th kind of summarized where we've gone as a school department in this FY21 budget. When the third all-day referendum failed on January 21st, we were put in a position where our plan was, if we received the additional funding, to use our savings, or as you call surplus that we had this year, to use it for our one-time COVID expenditures. When that all-day referendum failed, we were put in a position where we needed to use those funds for operations, and we had to balance our budget. So based on the information we have at that time, we put together a budget that was balanced, that we have to balance our budget both for local and for the state. And so we did that, but recognizing that our budget to actuals change continuously. We had some savings since the fall, which we've outlined in that letter. The second half of the year, we're going to try to bring back more students. That's going to cost more money. But based on our ability, our need to balance the budget, we put that together. And in that budget, we have a request of up to $941,000 and approximately $67. And I want to be clear about that. We're not asking you to give us that money. We're asking you to approve, if you so choose to at some point, that we could access those funds. And as I said, the budget to actuals are fluid. We don't know, like for instance, we're starting the rapid testing probably with staff this week, and next week we'll be starting it with consent from families with our students. We're not sure how much additional that's going to cost. It may be $1,000, $1,500 a week. We had budgeted tents previously in our budget. Our original expectation for COVID expenditures was somewhere between $3 and $5 million. And we've significantly reduced our operating budget and our COVID budget since the start of the year. Because again, first time we've been through this. We've had some significant savings on substitutes, but as we come back and if we're able to bring back more students and more in-person learning, that'll change. So I can go through, I mean, we gave you the budget that has what our COVID expenses are, what we'd be looking for the town. Again, we're not asking you, if we have significant savings through the remainder of the year, we wouldn't need to ask for that amount of money. And we could also reconcile at the end of the year. If you had approved up to a certain amount, we would expect that if we have an expenditure, we would share that document with you and ask for you to transfer the funds. We could pay that. But at the end of the year, if we don't need that additional funds, then we won't access those additional funds. But it's a process that we need to go through to balance the budget. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. The remainder of the year, we're hoping that, as Ms. Ludwig had said, in terms of, vaccines being available, new guidance came out from the CDC that I've asked for an interpretation because if you've been in our schools or if you have children in our schools, at the elementary level, we don't even have 3 feet of social distance between our students because the Department of Ed, Department of Health went from 6 feet guidance to a layering approach, mask wearing, sanitizing, air quality, and, try to do 3 feet. So the new guidance stresses 6 feet social distancing. President Biden said he wants to give stimulus money to reduce class size. Well, we don't even have the ability. Where would we put those kids? And we know it's difficult getting students. So, like I said, I presented to you the budget. I'm willing to answer any questions. I know tonight's just a discussion, but this, I think, somebody had mentioned to me before about, well, the voters voted down the referendum. And I have my own thoughts about the 3 referendums and how they went. But the bottom line, that was about a tax increase. This is not about a tax increase. And like I said, we've been offered through the previous council and town manager, the opportunity to look at using the town funds for one-time expenditures. And so that's what we're doing tonight. We're coming before you. And again, not asking you to transfer $900,000 over to our accounts, but to allow us to access that if we truly need that. Again, I don't know what next month, 2 months will bring down the road. We could have some savings, but we also could have additional expenditures that we'll have to figure out how we'll fund those. So I'm going to answer any questions that you have. And I appreciate the opportunity, although it's been a long time, about a year since we've been talking about this with different councils. So I appreciate the opportunity to come before you.
Chairperson Patino, would you like to add any comments at this time? Okay, as we mentioned, this is a discussion. We will vote on this request at our next meeting, which I believe is March 8th. But I'm going to ask members of the council questions that they may have right now for Mrs. Patino or Superintendent Levis. Ms. Ludwig.
Thank you, Mr. Levis and Chairperson Patino for providing the breakdown. I found the letter, Mr. Levis, that you did the breakdown in the summary. I found that extremely helpful to go over, the last year, and something that I'll utilize when I'm talking to constituents, because there's just been so much that has happened. So it's actually very helpful. So thank you. I did have a question on the fiscal year 2021 estimated COVID response expenditure detail page. This is page 35 of 45 of the agenda packet. It's got the blue and yellow highlights on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the elephant in the room, I guess, when I look at this page is on the purchase service for HVAC and air quality.
Correct.
That, it's obviously standing out to me because of how large it is. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about more about how you see this kind of possibly happening. And the reason I'm asking about this also, not just because of the number itself, but also because with children and myself in the school system, I was following this conversation about the fans and HVAC and all those services very closely when making my decision last year to send my own children in. And I'm sure many of the people across Coventry were doing so. And now what we found, you know, in the last few months, at least this is what we're hearing from the governor, that the virus is not being spread in school. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is for some of these costs, and the breakdowns here, they seem to make sense to me. And then some of the others, I just wanted to know if you could kind of shine some light on why you think they might still be
Sure.
necessary based on the current environment.
So I think it's very easy. You know, first of all, there's a lot of information out there. I'm going to be, you know, straightforward that I think the governor's done a phenomenal job. But there's a time where the governor targeted me and said, I'm not working hard enough, right? You can say whatever you want about me, but maybe I'm not effective. Maybe you don't like what I'm doing. But to say that we're not working hard enough, we've, you know, the challenges that the towns face, we faced, and but, you know, everybody's working extremely hard, and I appreciate their efforts every single day. So we were one of the first districts when the air quality came out. It's still an issue. If you look at what the CDC came out with, the new guidance that they came out with just, I think it was last week, it talks about air quality, it talks about proper mask wearing and sanitation, and they talk about social distancing. So air quality is still important. But I think it's because we're taking it seriously that we don't see the community spread within schools. We were one of the first districts, as soon as air quality was made an issue, we were one of the first districts to hire a consultant. And you'll see that on, there's a consultant probably 3/4 down the page, indoor air quality, $16,500. So we hired Creative Environment Corporation out of Cranston, and they did a very thorough, comprehensive assessment of our building. Because I need to do that. When I hear something's a problem, I can't put my head in the sand, or I can't go to social media and find something that I want that's just going to support the position I'm going to take. So we hired a consultant. We have a very thorough report that was presented to the school committee. I can share that with the council. And if you look across with the air quality, those numbers, the $875,000 are the recommendations from the consultant. Now we've been able to take care of some of that. Some of that money is money that was taken from the town because we haven't, you know, the housing aid that was scooped from the town because we haven't met our maintenance requirement. We have access to that. We also had a grant for about $62,000. So that's where you get the $501,000 that we're able to do a lot of that work. Some of that work is there's what's called ERV, they're air circulators. There's a couple of major units that need to be put on Western Coventry. Evidently, when work was done before, we ran out of money, so we didn't put any ventilation in. There's about 8 to 10 rooms there that we need to take care of. The center units in our elementary schools, Black Rock, Tyoke, Hopkins Hill, cafeterias, and some of those center rooms, they have poor air quality. So we're also doing work there. The $374,000 that you're talking about on the right, that's the remainder of the recommendations. There's a lot of work. So we right now, starting March 1st, we have a gentleman or many individuals that are coming in. And if you go into a lot of our classrooms, we have these units on that. Usually they're under the window. There are heating, HVAC units, but they're individual units. They have to be balanced. And evidently a gentleman's going to come in or a person skilled in balancing will come in, and they have to take about an hour and a half for each unit to make sure that the maximum amount of air is coming in. We need 15 cubic feet of air circulating per individual in the room. So that's going to take several weeks to do that. Once they do that, now we're going to know what additional work we may need to do in our classrooms. And so there may be we have some HEPA filters that actually one of our community members, Kristen Danusius, who was a former principal, works for the Department of Ed, but she also is a resident of Coventry. She works for the Education Operations Center. She's the director. She was able to get us 150 HEPA filters and what are called air scrubbers. And so what we need to do is figure out after the balancing work, where we have to put these HEPA filters in, what classrooms will require them. Tyoke, Black Rock, and Hopkins Hill, we have significant, as well as Western, significant issues with electricity. So we're going to have to do a lot of electrical work. And so that's where that $374,000 comes into. It also comes into putting in some larger systems to monitor air quality, especially in our middle school. We have some of that in our high school, but they want to put that in other schools so we can monitor that air quality. And I can, like I said, I will send that report to the town council. I'll send it to the town manager.
And just a follow-up question really quickly. So on the back of that, so I just want to understand, so these are all things that they've been partially actioned on so far?
So we had enough, so for us in our middle school and high school, we're hybrid, right? So we don't have a full contingency of students in. A lot of that work is still being done. The balancing work and the electrical work, we've done the air quality. We've, like in Western Coventry, there are classrooms we cannot use. We've taken over certain spaces we're not using. We've used our cafeterias. So this is work that needs to be done before the end of the year. So if we're to reopen fully next year. So this is work that I need to complete this year. So our buildings are safe, but remember, in our middle school and high school, we're only in, our students are only in a hybrid. So we do not have a classroom of 27 or 28. So the balancing work is going to be done in all of our buildings, but there's many classrooms in the middle school and the high school. There's like 464 classrooms that individuals need to go in and check the ventilation to make sure it's optimal. And so that's where we have to wait for that work to be done to know where the other work's going to be done. So it could be more than this, but again, the expert came in and used some formula to figure out what they believe the cost would be after the balancing work is done.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Levis, for joining us tonight and for sharing this information. Couple questions for you.
Sure.
Page 35 out of 45, it's the same report that Member Ludwig just brought up. It says estimated COVID costs, and so these costs have yet to be incurred, but I heard you say that they need to be completed by this year. When you say this year, are you referring to 6/30 of 2021 or by 12/31, just for clarification purposes?
6/30 by the end of this fiscal year. So, I mean, I'm talking about the electrical work, that one line there, the $374,000.
Yep, that one
That's
line, but
that's
okay, what about all of these expenses? Are the
some of them already
941,
incurred, right, I'm sorry.
the 941 you expect to incur and spend by 6/30?
Well, so I think in my opening statement, I was saying is that based on us balancing the budget, right? In this moment of time, these are the expenses that we can't account for, that we do not have the funds for. But what may happen is if we have additional savings, because I don't know what the next few months are going to bring. If we have additional savings, we won't need the $941,000. Budgeting for us is every single day, right? So if we open school, right, if we are not able to open our middle school and high school more, and we don't require, and we keep the same level of distance learning we have now, we've seen a significant reduction in our substitute costs. So if that continues, we may have additional savings. But to balance the budget and meet our requirement based on what we know, this is what we put forward. So we may not need the 941. So there's certain items, because I don't know we may have additional savings that'll offset some of these expenses, but we may have more costs. Like for instance, I had mentioned we had put tents in. We took them out of the budget, but as the weather gets warmer, we have a request for like 16 or 18 tents. They're $3,000 a month. So those are not built in here. Right now, transportation, you can only have 50% of the number of students on a bus. We had additional buses in original COVID budget, but we took them out. But the state has not changed. So if we open more, I'm concerned more about the middle school. Our elementary schools seem to be fine. But if we open the middle school, say 6th, 7th, and 8th before the end of the year, we may have to add on additional buses. So again, if we have savings, it'll be less than that. But if we could have additional expenses that, I mentioned the testing before. Even today, I had a meeting with our nurses today. Until we actually start the testing, they're not sure what additional costs. Like we need clerical help. We've volunteered, I think Mr. Wazika can vouch for this, for the testing that's taking place on your Thursdays that you were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, we have about, I think, 6 or 7 nurses that have volunteered, and we have maybe 12 or 14 staff that have volunteered as assistants. Because they're volunteers, and if it's during the day, we're going to pay for their time. You're reducing their cost. I don't have that luxury in school. So if we need clerical or we need people to check people in, I'm going to have to figure out who I can give additional hours to. So these are, these are moving targets. So we're hoping that we have additional savings.
Understood. So I guess what I'm hearing is these expenses have not yet been incurred. They most likely will be incurred, and you need the 941,000 effectively to fill the gap so that you have a balanced budget.
Correct, but I think hopefully we've demonstrated that we're fiscally prudent every single day. I mean, just to get to where we're at, as of today, with the lack of resources that we've had. I think is a testament to everybody that's worked together to support the schools. So you're right. I'm not looking for a blank check and say, hey, give us $941,000. And then if we don't spend it, it's ours. What we're saying is so we can meet the requirement of a balanced budget, but we may need to access those funds, but we may not.
Yep. I certainly appreciate you and your teams and everybody on the school side, all your contribution for sure. Please know that. My last question is, it might be towards you, Mr. Levis or Mr. Wazika. This 941, if we were to approve it at the next meeting, I'm assuming it's contingency fund. It's coming out of the contingency fund, or how would that work? I just want to make sure.
It's the fund balance.
This would be coming out of fund balance.
Fund balance. Okay, so it's going out of this. Okay.
Yeah. The contingency fund only has about 100,000 in it.
Okay.
Mr. Shockley, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, to make sure I understand, because I think you did say it at the beginning of your presentation, you wouldn't be asking for any of the funds until the end of the year?
What? No, I'm saying at the end of the year, we could do a reconciliation. For instance, if you had approved 941,000, right? But we've only asked, if we've requested 430,000, right? Then that's all we'll need.
Okay.
And while this has been encumbered, not everything's been paid. Like we've incurred the expenses that are here, except for the $374,000. That's work to be done, right? We're getting purchase orders prepared, but most of that I won't be able to spend till this balancing work is done, which will be completed in March. But everything else, like we have the overages, we have the additional nurse, additional custodians, they're in place.
Okay. Yeah, and part of what you put here is covered by the federal or state is the housing aid. So that's already factored into that column.
Yes.
And then
we received.
do you have any idea when, I don't know if schools are getting more information than the general public on when you might get some information from the federal government concerning
Funds?
Mhm.
So we still, the funds that President Trump had allocated, and I don't know if that was November, December, but that stimulus package, I have no idea. Vendors seem to, because I'm getting maybe 20 to 30 to 40 emails from vendors saying you're going to get this money and you can use it for this. But the other part to be cautious about is the first federal funds that we were supposed to receive, the governor used them to supplant state aid. So, and I think we talked about this with virtual net metering, right? I think Mr. Wazika had said, we're not going to, solar energy or savings until we see the savings, we're not going to put it in our budget. So, and Ms. Mangiarelli has been clear, and I've been clear, whatever funds we get, we want to utilize for students and for families. And what I mean by that, I've had a conversation with Ms. Blumenthal, your Parks and Rec. I've talked to the YMCA, the new executive director, Jeff Smith, that we want to try to provide funds to support students and benefit families by summer programming, not only for social emotional, but we want to infuse academic support. And we want to spend as much money as we can. I'll meet with the librarians. So if there's a way we can use our money to support programs that already exist, to enhance them, and then to add maybe our teachers to that, because we understand we want to provide additional opportunities for students that might have taken 2 or 3 AP classes this year, but because of the conditions took one. I want to provide those opportunities. We want to provide intensive opportunities for our career tech students that have missed a lot of hands-on, and we want to be able to do that. So we want to use those funds as much as we can for interventions for our students this summer. And
But
so
this-
that's our plan. That's what we've talked about.
But this doesn't factor in the money that was already approved in November either, then, is what you're saying. 'Cause you
Well,
haven't
I don't know what that money is, and I don't know when we're gonna get that, but that's
Okay.
what we would use. We would use that for interventions as much as we can. Because our students, you know, we hear that, we see that, you know, I've never said distance learning is the way to go. You know, and as Ms. Ludwig said, people make decisions based on their beliefs and the information they receive. But there's nothing that replaces a student working with a child in that relationship. And we want to do as much as we can to support our families and to acknowledge that these have been challenging times. And if it makes it easier for families this summer because we're providing opportunities where their students can go, you know, then so be it. But I think we'll have the funds to do that. We need the resource, the bodies, you know, we need to be able to get the staffing. But that's been our goal all along. We've said that. I think Ms. Patno can vouch for that. We've indicated that that's how we want to prioritize our funding. We receive, I have no idea how much we'll receive. I have no idea how much we'll receive from, you know, from President Trump's stimulus funding, and I have no idea how much we'll receive from President Biden's funding if it gets approved. They're saying it could get approved as early as this Friday, but you know, it's like the vaccine question. People think I have inside information to vaccines, when it's going to come, and you'll probably know more about the funding than I will, sooner than I will. So.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have one more for Mr. Wazika. Let's say we approve this and the school requires every penny of it. What will that do to our fund balance, and what will that do to our bond ratings in different ways that it could impact us if we did approve this?
Okay, as far as fund balance, we'll start with that. As of the last audit, we have $12.6 million in our fund balance based on the last audit. This last year's audit is not in yet. Where we're ending up, it's going to be, it'll be in the black. I don't know how much at this point. We don't have those numbers and now, but so suffice, we've got 12.6 million. So we've got a substantial amount in our fund balance. Taking $1 million out of that, what will it affect on the bond ratings? I can't answer that. And I don't think anybody could until the bond companies actually sit down and look at everything to see if they will look at it as a negative effect. And will it have a downward trend on our bond rating? We got rid of the negative add-on last year. I'm hoping for the next one to actually go up a step. What will this do? I don't know. I can't answer that, and I don't think anybody could until they do it. But yeah, so that's where we are on both of those.
Can I add to that, Dr. Dixon?
Of course.
So, and I don't know your experience. I know many of us sat in on a meeting with the Auditor General about the schools and the funds. I think you've seen some of the letters that we sent, but what I did hear, and I think Mr. Wazika can vouch for that, is there was a question posed about, you know, taking money out of the fund balance for the town and impacting the bond rating for the town. And what the Auditor General's office had said, that they're going to look at the town as a whole, and that if the town was solvent, but the schools have a deficit, then that's going to impact the bond rating. And at least my takeaway from that meeting was exactly what we're doing tonight, trying to work together to avoid having a deficit. And we're talking about FY21. We all know FY22 is going to be a challenge, but you know, and like I said, I appreciate the consistent message of this council and you, particularly Dr. Dixon. And like I said, I think, you know, the fact that we're asking for funds that we may need, but not asking you to give us any funds until we can demonstrate the need, I think is, you know, hopefully is perceived as a safety net because hopefully we've demonstrated that we're going to be fiscally prudent every single day. Budgeting is every single day. So
Mr. LeBlanc?
Follow-ups. One, would we be the only town or the first town to do this? If we were to approve something along these lines, Mr. Wazeeka or Mr. Levis?
I can tell you that, from a funding of COVID, I met with a former resident of Coventry, who is the chair of the school committee in North Kingston. And prior to the North Kingston starting school this year, I was informed that the North Kingston Town Council had allocated $1 million of their fund balance to support. North Kingston hired 20 distance learning teachers with some of those funds. I know the town, they also allocated some of that money to the town also. I believe West Warwick had received funding from COVID funding prior to the start of the school year. I believe Cranston, and don't quote me on this, but I believe they received $1 or $2 million. I had a conversation with one of their school committee members recently to support COVID. So in terms of that, I can't answer in terms of balancing the budget, but in terms of providing funds for COVID, many communities have done that.
Several communities have done that out of the fund balance for COVID. It's not MOE, it's simply the COVID funding. And honestly, there's no other way to, in most cases, to be able to fund those costs. We don't have the ability in our budgets to have that kind of spare change around to cover them. So others have done it.
I think that's extremely important information to know. So thank you for answering that and sharing that information. And then I just didn't know if we could get creative, Mr. Wazeeka. I'm assuming the answer is probably no, but with the budget, since it failed, we obviously are level funded and we're using last year's, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was $200,000 for capital improvements that did get approved last year. I don't know where that 200,000 stands currently, if we've actually incurred it, but could we use a portion of that to fund some of this and then take, to reduce this 941 or no?
No, I don't believe so. It's earmarked and authorized by the citizens for capital improvement. And we can't use it for this type of situation.
And the town council couldn't approve something like that?
I do not believe they could. And we have enough need for that. And that I'm already looking at, that's going towards a vehicle or two for DPW to try to get them brought up a little bit on. You've seen the mess that they've got as well. And I just don't think it's appropriate to use capital in a case like this for operating. It's not going to go.
That's fair.
I'd rather
I was
not
just trying to
even
get a
list-
little creative, but thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, I just want to emphasize that this does not go toward maintenance of effort for the school department's budget. But I also would like to just ask this question because it probably is in many people's mind. This is for Ms. Mills or Mr. Wazeeka. Suppose Mr. Levis sends off a request for $50,000 to start. What is the process by which that request would be received and in what form and how would it be processed? And then Mr. Levis' budget would get that money. How's this gonna work?
The request would come into either myself or Lisa, and we process it the way we do now. And they get a monthly allotment towards their MOE now as it goes. We would simply process it through and make the transfer into their account.
So what
If
would,
if you so choose to do it that way.
so what would be the time lag? So if something were submitted on I'll say a Monday, how soon would they be able to get those funds?
Lisa, Monday, Tuesday? Yeah, same day or the next day, we're able to make that transfer in.
Excellent, that's good news. Okay, any other questions that members of the council have? This is just a discussion. I do appreciate Mr. Levis and Ms. Patno waiting so long in our agenda, but we've had a full agenda. And we will be voting at the next meeting. So ask your questions now, anything that comes to mind. I'm sure if something else comes up between now and the next meeting, Mr. Levis or Ms. Patno would be happy to answer those questions, or Mr. Wazeeka, depending upon the nature of the question. But
President Dixon?
We do want to be ready to vote at the next meeting. Ms. Ludwig,
I just want to make sure you saw me before you went to the next agenda item.
I never miss you, Ms. Ludwig.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So I guess I have a general comment to make because I'm just thinking about this overall $941,000 number, because I know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to have people that call me up and say, I rejected these budgets and, I've rejected it 3 times, and we'll have to have a separate discussion about why you rejected the first one and then the second 2. So if I put that aside and say, okay, the overall budgets have not been approved. There's some sort of sentiment that they're not getting approved in the community. And then I know that we used some of the savings from the COVID savings from last year's school budget. And then we had to use, I believe, some of those into the operating budget for this year. And so then we come out with another number that says 900. Okay, now we need $900,000 for COVID. I'm just trying to rationalize, how I have a conversation with constituents that think this may be a roundabout way of getting money through the town council approving it versus through, say, a budget vote. So I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about what would happen if we don't approve these COVID funds, and what happens if, just for example, the town council does not have a majority vote yes on the 900,000. Is this something that, none of these things can happen? Is it something that we have to go back to discussion? Kind of what will happen?
Is that question directed at me, Ms. Ludwig?
Mr. Levis, yourself, or to Ms.
So,
Patnode? I know it's a tough one.
No, I don't think it's a tough question. I mean, first of all, I think Mr. LeBlanc asked a good question before that. You're not the only town that's allocated COVID funds. We've been funded, we were for many months, the state had held back. We were working on 1/12 of the previous budget. So it wasn't like we even had access to last year's complete budget. It was 1/12. And yet, I think we did an amazing job, the school department, as well as other departments moving forward, because nobody's reduced their expectations of our requirement to our students and families and our staff. We put this together because by law, we were required to have a corrective action plan to balance our budget. And to me, it's about leadership. I don't want to go off, and we've had conversations privately, publicly. I've said nothing, but you instill a lot of hope in me. But I believe it's about leadership that, I have a list right here. I received this today of the 2,000 and some odd voters, right, that voted, whether they voted for or against the budget out of 20 some odd thousand, because a minority of the people, and less than 4% actually voted to support the municipal, doesn't relieve me of my responsibility to lead for our students, our staff, and our families. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm going to fight. It's been a fight every day I've been here. I came in with the Central Coventry Fire District, I think, having major issues. And then the other night I heard, and maybe it was another fire district. I know there's 5. I don't want to label one, but now I heard.
Be careful.
I know. There's a no-win situation, but then I hear Johnson's fine. There's always these other issues. And Dr. Dixon, I thought, said it eloquently the other night about, we need to address, and I believe the leadership that you guys present will address these issues. You've done an incredible job tonight. I listened to the words that you put on about Johnson's Pond. Even though it's in litigation, you're conveying confidence in people. And in my experiences, it's been a fight. And there's been talk. That's why we talked about rules of engagement, right? Let's make sure what we're saying behind the scenes is the same that we're saying publicly. So to me, this is about leadership, making the right decision. I mean, we'll have to go down a different path. We don't have the funds. Even if we're able to find savings and limp through this year and use every penny we have, it's going to be worse next year. And so we're trying to do due diligence, be completely transparent. But other districts have received support for COVID. They're not maintenance of effort. The taxpayers voted down a tax increase. This has nothing to do with the tax increase. And I hope the leadership of the council, which means everybody, because you all take a leadership role. Dr. Dixon has been supporting education with the old council. She's the one that put forward $1.2 million. Didn't even get a second to even discuss it, right? So to me, it's about leadership. And I hope that you will support, but again, that is completely your choice. It'll put us in another position. We'll have to do something else, that we'll go back to the state. I don't know what we'll do. At that meeting we were at, that both Mr. Gorham and Mr. Wazika and Ms. Mills might have been there. Somebody, I don't know, you were at that meeting. The Department of Ed and the Auditor General's office members said, you're not going to be able to cut your way out of this. There's got to be systemic change in Coventry. But I think it's about leadership myself. And just the messaging that you guys are conveying about how important this all is important, the comprehensive plan. In the current comprehensive plan, there's a paragraph or two about education. I think education is more important than just a couple of paragraphs in a comprehensive plan. But that's another topic. But again, we're hoping that you will support it. I think there's nothing wrong with the community during a pandemic that we've never experienced. Supporting additional funds that are needed, not only on the town, on the school side, but you've been able to be creative. You were able to use some of your fund balance to purchase vehicles that weren't going to be in the budget. We haven't. We've had to use our fund balance for operations now. So we're not in the same position that you're in. We were able to bring back sports. We were able to bring back some Chromebooks, and we're going to hopefully bring forward the lease for vehicles because Ms. Mandrelli really negotiated with our out-of-district transportation to save $400,000. We didn't find any additional revenues. We were able to shift expenditures. We negotiated 2 contracts. So go back to that letter. As you said, it's good information. And I can give you more details for any of those, but these are the things that we've done. We started the budget process for 21 in October of 19. So the FY21 budget. So, again, I go back to, I think it's about leadership on all sides. School committee has been consistent as we've put forward our budgets. And again, we're hoping that you will support us with these one-time potential funds that we potentially may need.
I think that's probably the biggest hurdle is to make sure people are understanding it's a one-time ask as opposed to a possible backdoor approach to get something approved. So we certainly will have some conversations ahead. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ms. Mills,
Go ahead.
Ms. Mills has something to just to relay to the council in reference to the fund balance and the effect on the bonds. So Lisa, you've got the floor, and if you can share your screen if you want to show it.
Okay, thanks, Ed. All right, I just wanted to show basically a scorecard of factors in the bond rating. Let me share my screen here. Right here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were talking about the fund balance, the percentage of the factors being weighted, is the fund balance based on percentage of revenues and the 5-year balance trend. So if it goes down, and all these other factors, so you can see the weighting of it. And I just wanted to show you that so you have an idea. I mean, it goes into a lot more detail of how these factors are determined and how if you're a very strong, AAA versus strong. So all these factors are weighted and it's kind of a complicated formula, but just wanted to give you that information.
Can you give any color behind it, Lisa, or?
Excuse me?
So, you see fund balance and it looks like it's factored in for about 15% of your weighting.
Yep.
Well, how much of an impact is that?
Well,
I hate to ask the stupid question, but I'd rather do that. than
well,
just
it's
not understand.
actually, yeah, it depends because, I mean, I'm not familiar with Coventry. I mean, I just got here and I know you
That's
just
fair.
got out of the bad rating into a good rating. So, I think that might be, a critical part. But also the tax base, if it's growing, that's a great thing. And it appears to be based on, Russell's presentation. And we also have pensions that, the debt to the full value, those weigh pretty heavy too. All I'm saying is I just wanted you to see that weight. I can't tell you, like Ed stated, it's hard. I mean, we could reach
Gotcha.
out to Steve, the bond advisor, and ask him, which might not be a bad idea. I know him personally because he did the bonds for Portsmouth as well. We could certainly ask him that question, but based on the fact that we just updated our credit analysis in a favorable light, we've got to be very careful on where that's going to go. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Appreciated.
Thanks, Lisa.
Welcome. Now to how do I unscreen this?
Up on the top, at the top, it should say stop sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Levis, thank you so much for your presentation, answering a great number of questions that have been presented. I just think back to referendum number 3. It did not pass. The budget did not pass by 141 votes. When you think about it, 141 votes of a potential 25,000 votes is minuscule. But we need to really think about what we're trying to do here. And I believe that we're really trying to ensure the health and safety of the staff and all of the students. And you're not requesting the whole amount all at once. It's as needed. And as you said, you don't know what's going to be needed, but there is a limit to what you can ask. And we've got a good finance director right now who's very proactive. You can see she just did that and pulled up some information for us. And I know that she's going to keep tabs on what's going on and keep the council apprised really month by month or meeting by meeting of what is happening and how much has been withdrawn. So the council has difficult decision to make. We've got 2 more weeks in which every person can decide what they want to do. But I personally am going to support this because I think we need to provide, as I said, for the health and safety of the students and staff. And I believe that we have enough checks and balances here to ensure that we will not go crazy in using the money from the fund balance. Any other comments? Okay, we're getting close to 10 o'clock. Ms. Patno.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the council for this discussion. And like Mr. Levis, I really hope that the council will support this request. And I just want you to all remember that this is based on what we have to do by state law. Without this approval of the extra funds that we can draw on, we don't have a plan to go back to the Auditor General. We'd have to say, we're going to have to close schools or do something really drastic, which I don't think this community is prepared for as well. So it's not just some pie in the sky kind of request. Legally, we have to come up with a plan so that we're not deficit spending. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to save some additional funds and not need the full amount. But I also want you to consider, even Mr. Wazika said this, and I know for a fact as well, there have been many towns and cities that have provided funding for COVID, not on maintenance of effort. And many of those towns and cities did not level fund their schools or their municipal government. So we're already behind the 8 ball because we were level funded. We were all level funded, municipal as well as the school side. And then to try to come up with an impossible funding for our COVID expenses, it is an impossibility. I think Mr. Wazika stated that very early on in this discussion, that to try to come up with that extra money on both sides of municipal and school is an impossibility. You just can't do that in your regular budget. So I really think that this request is really a conservative request, quite honestly. And I'm very hopeful that you all consider it and vote in the positive 2 weeks from now. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I appreciate the patience you had in waiting so long through the agenda, but everything is important to us. Every single thing is important to us. All right, ready to proceed along. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Item D7, approval of the revised budget calendar for fiscal year 21-22, reference page 41 to 42. Mr. Wazika, would you like to speak on this?
I would. I've simply moved back the entire calendar by a month. Where we're supposed to find out what the state's budget is in March. We don't know at this point. I'm being advised that there may be some substantial reductions in funding towards the cities and towns. I wanted to ensure that we have as much time as necessary to be able to do this right. I don't want to have to be trying to change this at the 11th hour. So we would be doing the FTM and all-day ref would be in June. You have the right to do this under the statute, the emergency declaration statute, to move it forward. I'm just simply asking to push it forward a month to give us more time to do our due diligence on this and not do it without adequate information.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the revised budget calendar, which appears on page 41 and 42?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes, 4 yeas, no nays. The budget calendar revised is approved. Thank you, Mr. Wazika.
Thank you, Council.
Item E1, the item refers to the appointment of members to the Historic District Commission. We have a little bit of a problem in understanding the appointment last time, so we are going to do it to ensure that there is no issue. We'll start with the appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission. Madam Clerk, would you read the resolution, please? This is on reference page 43.
Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Coventry, State of Rhode Island, appointing 2 full and 1 auxiliary member to the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission in accordance with ordinance number 4-13-288. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Coventry hereby appoints Maureen Buffy as a full member of the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission to an unexpired term of office expiring August 1st, 2023. Erin Brewster as a full member of the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission to an unexpired term of office expiring August 1st, 2021. Ann Asemko as auxiliary member of the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission to an unexpired term of office expiring August 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve these candidates' membership on the Historic Preservation Commission?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes, 4 yeas, no nays. The motion passes. Congratulations to Ms. Buffy, Ms. Brewster, and Ms. Asimko. Thank you. Next appointment is for the land trust. There was a mistake on the resolution. We're only appointing 1 member this evening. Ms. Ematrana, would you please read it?
Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Coventry, State of Rhode Island, reappointing or appointing members to the Coventry Land Trust. The Town Council hereby reappoints or appoints Linda Brennan to a 5-year term of office expiring November 22nd, 2025.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Can you refresh my memory? Why are we only appointing one person?
Because the agenda, if you look at the agenda on the first, I think it's page
It's on the
2,
agenda, okay.
it just says one person. But we will appoint the other 2 members at our next meeting.
Okay.
President Dixon,
Yes,
I did not get a chance to interview Ms. Brennan. So is it possible to abstain rather than recuse?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call vote?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig, you're gonna abstain.
Abstain.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. Okay, 3 yeas, no nays, 1 abstention. The resolution passes. Congratulations, Ms. Brennan. The last appointment, Ms. Amatrano, did we get an application from this candidate for the assessment board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you please read the resolution?
Of the Town of Coventry, State of Rhode Island, appointing 1 member to the Board of Assessment Review in accordance with Article 5, Section 10.40 of the Coventry Home Rule Charter. Whereas the Coventry Home Rule Charter requires that there be a Board of Assessment Review consisting of 5 members for a term of 6 years. Be it resolved that the Town Council hereby reappoint or appoints Sean Carey, representing District 3, is appointed to serve an unexpired 6-year term of office expiring November 1st, 2022.
May I have a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it. I do have a question. though.
Okay, what discussion? Okay, any discussion? Mr. LeBlanc?
Just wondering why on this particular one, we call out the district, but on the other ones, we do not call out what district they're from.
Yes,
Mandated. They have to have one from each district
Okay,
on the commission. That's why it's set up that way.
okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
and also when we first appointed a member to the assessment board of review, at that point, there was only 1 opening and we did appoint a gentleman. Since that time, there was a resignation in District 3 and we had an application from District 3 and we also had interviewed that person. So we were ready to roll very quickly on this appointment. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Ludwig?
Not a question, just a comment. I did not get a chance to interview Sean, so I'll just abstain as well, Joanne.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. 3 yeas, no nays, 1 abstention. The resolution passes. Congratulations, Mr. Carey. We're ready to move to item F, public comment. We do have a stop at 10 o'clock and we'll have to see how many people want to make public comment and we can make a decision whether we can extend beyond 10 o'clock for a few minutes. So let's start with public comment. Mr. Wazika.
Well, we've lost more than half of our attendees. We were up to about 125
That's a good one.
and we're down to 55 now.
Okay,
So we've lost a few. I currently have 1 hand up at this time. Kayla DeFossi. Kayla, please state your full name, spell your last name, and give your address, please.
Hi, my name is Kayla DeFosi. I live, it's Kaila, last name DE, F as in Frank, O, S as in Sam, S as in Sam, E. I live at 65 Isle of Capri Road in Coventry. I have several questions for the committee and I appreciate you taking my questions at this time. The first being, What is the town's position and plan, an action plan for those that homebound seniors that are looking for COVID vaccinations? My second, and we can circle back if you need me to. My second question would be in regards to Johnson's Pond and the legalities that are going on. I know you can't comment to a certain degree, but when it comes to claiming eminent domain, are you actually pursuing that in order to help all of us pond owners? And thirdly, my question would be, is it really good business practice, going back to something that was commented on tonight, to just simply not respond back to somebody who has provided services to you and not paying them simply because they did not, question you not paying them, as well as with all of these new structures trying to be built within the town, transferring our town into what is known as a town as opposed to a city.
Okay, we can take the first issue. That is, I believe one of them was the Johnson's Pond issue.
Number one was the homebound and vaccination.
Homebound, yes, thank
We
you.
are not authorized to go to the houses and give vaccine out at a home. If the individual is under the care of any type of home care organization, they would get it through them. But we do not go out to the houses to issue that.
I think the second issue had to do with Johnson's Pond. Is that correct, Mr. Mosey?
Yes.
Okay,
And Johnson's Pond is easy. I can't comment on that question. It's under it's in litigation, and I just cannot talk about that.
I figured as much, but I figured I wanted to pose the question anyway.
okay. You also asked about us not paying the consultant who did not complete the work for the comprehensive plan. What is the exact question you would like to ask relating to that?
Well, just that is it really good business practice to have a company that you instilled to do these things? And granted, they couldn't meet the expectation, and I get that. But at the same time, to just let it go and not pay them simply because they haven't come after you after that. Like, you would think that the town would have a better representation than that.
Ed, do you want me to
Mr.
take a shot?
Mr. Gora?
The gentleman who was going to do the comprehensive plan for the firm that that was hired died. And we don't generally go after deceased people when they've been unable to perform a contract. That's really what happened. It was very sad. He contracted cancer while he was working on our comprehensive plan, and pretty much everybody thought he was doing a pretty good job, and he died. And that,
No, I completely understand that factor of it. What I'm saying is that there was still a company that pursued past his passing that you utilized prior to, but you actually said they haven't said anything to me about needing a bill, and I'm not going to pay them.
I don't
So
think
that's what I'm saying. It's just not good business practice on the town of Coventry.
They have been
Is
paid
what
for
I'm-
the work they accomplished. They have been paid for that. That's why there was no further bills, because they were paid for the work that they did do. So we didn't.
So then what is the money that's owed then?
Off the top of my head, I don't have the exact amount in front of me.
I thought it, from what I recollect, they were not supposed to receive complete payment until the job was completed.
Right.
Job was not
Correct.
completed, and I believe that there was approximately $10,000 that would have been paid to them had they completed the work. They did not complete the work. So by contract, we were not under obligation to pay them. So it's not really that we didn't go after them, it's that we were not obligated to do so because they did not fulfill the contract.
Okay, perfect explanation. I see that 100%. Circling back to the COVID vaccines, well, the town is not required to provide vaccines to our homebound patients that are unable to receive the vaccine by going to the clinics. Is there any coordination that you can do from outside companies in order to get these patients who are obviously within the demographics that are very vulnerable to get them the vaccine?
Not on the town side. There's nothing we can do to provide that. If you're implying like to provide the vaccine to a third party to give it, no, we don't do that. If there was any need for that, you would have to go through the state, or the person would have to go through the state to try to do it. We are not, like I said, we're not authorized to inject people in their houses, and we're not authorized to give that vaccine to someone else to do the injecting.
Okay, Mr. Fozzi, have all your questions been answered?
No, so let's move on to the other things that I had. So with the whole town bringing on all these different developments and bringing in all these moderate to low income housings within our community, like where does it stand when it comes to declaring our town as a town versus a city? Because we are bringing on all these people and it's basically becoming more city-like rather than town-like.
Nick, you want to take this one?
Nick.
Sure. Well, I guess it depends on where you live in Coventry. If you live in Western Coventry, I think you're pretty well convinced that you're living in the country. And I agree with you. The eastern part of the town is becoming more urbanized. But most of the projects that we were talking about tonight, or the larger projects that Mr. Crossman was talking about tonight, we're on Route 3, which I think is earmarked for development. In fact, the large apartment complex that he referred to as Woodland Manor 3, that's on a sewer line and they're paying impact fees. And that development is going to help the sewer system of the town a lot. And it's in an area that was designated for precisely that kind of development already. So I don't really see that as edging perilously closer to being a city. I see it as following a plan and making some wise choices about the way the sewer system is utilized. We're so often criticized because we pay for such a large reserve on the sewer system, and yet we don't use it when we have a project like this one that is waiting to be hooked up. I think it's more than 125 units that are going to be hooked up. So there's a huge source of revenue to the town there, not just in the sewer assessments, but in the annual payments that they'll make for user fees. So, and there were some other ones. Center New England was entirely earmarked for development. One of the projects is in there. So I do understand your concern. I've lived in Coventry for 25 years. I've seen it change. It's definitely been more developed, but I think this council is following the plan that was put in place a long time ago for development. The biggest problems we have is when we don't follow the plan and we stray from it. And I can't say that this council with any of these projects that are going forward right now is straying from the plan at all.
So being that you
It's a
mentioned
good
the
question.
sewer
I
assessments,
appreciate the question.
oh, I appreciate you answering that. So with the sewer assessments and the amount that is being enforced among the population within Coventry, are these renters and these low income households that are going to move into these developments, are they going to be affected by all of these sewer assessments that are being mandated amongst all the other participants within our town?
you're talking about the sewer assessments laid next to the low and moderate income housing projects. Is that what you mean? Is
I
the
mean, that
sewer-
the
the
sewer
sewer
assessments that
assessments
are being
are-
affected by all of the
Yeah,
other
sure. That's a
household
fair question.
owners.
The developer has chosen to pay the sewer assessments because the developer, I think, is of the belief that they can still make a profit with the low and moderate income housing, in particular at the Woodland Manor 3. I don't know their spreadsheet. I just know that they made the choice to agree to it. And so that's a positive for the town. That agreement was negotiated years ago in a lawsuit about the Woodland Manor 3 that was settled. Well, the town won the most important part of the case, which was the impact fees, which are also being collected. I know about it because I negotiated that settlement. We were going to take an appeal to the Supreme Court. So, I think, again, that's a very good settlement for the town that came out the right way. On the half of the case that we won, I think it's really good because we're collecting impact fees on all of that. So you've got a lot of good questions. Thank you.
I would like to, since it's after 10 o'clock and we usually have a hard stop at 10 without a motion to extend, I'd like to be able to go on to the next person who is waiting in line to ask some questions. Mr. Wazika, could you let Mr. Pasqua in?
John, please give your full name, spell your last name and your address, please.
John Pasqua, 222 Raccoon Run Road, Coventry, Rhode Island. I'll make this brief. I know it's getting late. It's just a public comment. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I would like to take a second to thank the town council and the town manager for their hard work on the critical issue concerning the Flat River Reservoir, better known as Johnson's Pond. As most of you know, my role with the association is public information, and myself and President Lamoy are fielding lots of questions daily from concerned citizens. So I want to extend our appreciation that you took the time tonight to address this publicly. I also want you to know, we understand the association at the association level, the position that you are in due to litigation, and it creates a tough spot for you when it comes to addressing this in public forum. We get it. And lastly, I couldn't agree more with the statement that was made tonight. This is something that can affect the entire town immensely. And we're working at the association level with the intentions to not only protect the people on the pond, but people townwide. So just wanted to extend my thanks and appreciate your attention on the matter.
Thank you, John, for waiting so long to make that important statement. We appreciate it. Okay, anyone else, Mr. Wazika?
There are none.
Okay, I hope we didn't wear people out because we do want public comment, but we had a very interesting meeting this evening.
We did lose half our audience, ma'am.
Okay, well, we'll think about how we don't lose our audience next time. Thank you. We're on item number G, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I think Mr. Clements would like to speak
I
on public comment, and
don't see him. Is he on? Okay, Mr. Clements.
Mr. Clements, please state your full name, spell your last name and your address. Mr. Clements.
And Farm Drive. Good. I guess, is there a way to funnel the Johnson's Pond questions, comments, concerns to the Johnson's Pond Association and Communications Manager so that these meetings could be more concise and the town could focus on all of the issues? I understand the criticality of Johnson's Pond, the tax base, the benefits it provides in its future, but there are a lot of other critical issues that I feel get pushed aside in the current, we'll say, maelstrom of Johnson's Pond issues, as critical as they may be to the city and or town that we may be.
The Johnson's Pond Association doesn't have any legal authority when it comes to the town and dealing with the issue of Johnson's Pond. They are a civic organization. So, I mean, unfortunately, fortunately, we are the ones that are responsible for handling it, and we will continue to do that. They deal with their own people on the pond, on their questions and stuff. But overall, we have the responsibility of dealing with it. I'd rather not have inaccurate information go out or information that isn't appropriate. So we have to maintain that.
Understood. Just looking for some efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see anyone else on the queue. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn at 10:09?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote?
Kimberly Shockley,
Yes.
Jennifer Ludwig,
Yes.
Jamie LeBlanc,
Yes.
Ann Dixon.
Yes. No yeas, no nays. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. We had a very lengthy meeting, but we covered a lot of territory and a lot of issues that are important to the town. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.